Hello and welcome to the Yerky Boys. May the Candrona shine and strengthen you. My name is Will.
My name is Jonathan.
And we are
the Yerky Boys.
Book 29, The Sickness, happening today on this wonderful podcast.
Yeah, this book was released in April 1999.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah, that's over 2 decades ago.
That's
right?
true. Yes,
Yeah,
all of
it
these
is.
are over 2 decades ago.
Wow. Crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah, now this is The Sickness. Now there's we got some good things to dive into today.
Yes, you told me there's some exciting things happening that I don't know about yet.
There's exciting stuff. I mean, I just meant like our discussion's going to be pretty good.
I think that's true.
And there's some sharing that we're going to do as well. So I'm excited about this. I did want to note, I thought it was interesting, the title of this book, The Sickness, as we said. Now this is 1999. Now there's a musical artist who took a liking to the same phrasing around this time. And they technically, if you do your research, which I know a lot of our listeners are research oriented.
I didn't do any research.
Right, that's why I said our listeners. This musical artist technically didn't really. The world wasn't made privy to this phrasing until 2000. However, they actually did some recording of that in 1999. So there's sort of some. I don't know. I feel like maybe The Sickness was in the zeitgeist at this time.
I mean, this book is pretty sick.
Yeah, this book is kind of sick. It's kind of dope.
Yeah, and on that note that you're talking about, I mean, would you say that you got down with this book?
I might say that I did that. Yeah, and I got a little song for you.
Oh boy. Okay, well, I'm glad that I didn't try to riff on that joke if you actually have a song.
Yeah, well,
I considered it.
This is something I uncovered that I think is I think this is an early original draft.
Oh, is it now?
Of Disturbed's classic 2000 single.
Okay. Well, let's hear this early draft that you discovered. Is this lost media?
Yeah, this is lost media. Here's a snippet for you and the listeners. Yeah, I'm fucked. Kind of a long snippet. Yeah, I'm fucked. Yerk, yerk. Yerk, yerk. Yerk, yerk. Swimming deep in the water tower, passing through pipes, I'm an eel. Will we find Mr. 3? It seems what's left of my human side is slowly changing to an eel. Will we save Aximili? Following Eric's directions, when suddenly Jake's woozy. He's acting all confusing. Wow! No, there is no swimming back now. We're shooting out a hose. I'm an eel. Get up, come on, help Axe with the sickness. Get up, come on, help Axe with the sickness. Get up, come on, help Axe with the sickness. Open up his head, don't let it flow into me. Get Jake, come on, help Axe with the sickness. You Marco, get up, come on, help Axe with the sickness. You Rachel, get up, come on, help Axe with the sickness. Yeah, but is the shit I don't want given to me. So... So
wow, that's crazy. That's the first draft of the song.
Yeah, well, apparently originally the band was heavily inspired by this book.
Wow.
In particular.
Maybe we'll even have him on the show if we can get a hold of the Time Matrix.
Now, what's really exciting for our listeners is that was about a minute and a half snippet. I was like the first verse and the chorus.
Yeah.
But I'm here. I'm happy to announce that if you sign up for our Patreon, you will have access to a full, immaculate, crystal clear MP3 download of the 4.5 minute version of that song. And in my estimation, it only gets better from there.
So, wow. That's pretty exciting. By the time this podcast is over, we might have a full album.
I think we will. We're almost at an EP at least at this point.
Yeah. I don't even remember how many we have now.
At
least 3.
We only have one full length one right now, but there's more coming.
There are definitely more coming. I know at least one book that I'm just going to tell you have to write a song for.
Okay, good.
I don't know what it'll be, but
okay. I'm just going to say also that this was the first time I really ever listened to that full song.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not like a heavy metal guy. I don't
know if that's the heavy metal, but
I think it qualifies.
Sure. Why not? I'm not. Or it's
at least new metal.
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not a genre Nazi or whatever. So whatever you say it is.
Wikipedia, an American heavy metal band.
Okay, sure. Okay, I guess that's what it is.
Yeah, so argue with that. Wikipedia's never been wrong.
I'm not arguing with Wikipedia.
They're not Seropedia.
Yeah, it's not Seropedia, that's for sure.
I bet there's not even one reference to this song on this book Seropedia page.
Yeah, wow. They don't even know the history.
Anyway, it's kind of a good song. The end of that song also gets a little bit insane.
Yeah, I mean, to be listen, I was thinking about that song for this book, and I was wondering if I could maybe like work in a riff where I just basically do that ending of that song. And I'm glad I didn't now, because you would have one-upped me so hard. I would have felt like an idiot.
And I wouldn't have known what you were talking about if I didn't do this also.
That would have honestly been pretty funny.
But now I'm intimately familiar with it. Not to belabor this too much, but I also there's an early version no one will ever hear of this song where I accidentally said yum fat instead of yam fut. I had to re-record it.
Could go for a little bit of fat.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I got to make a joke about chow yum fat, but then I realized that's not what it's called.
Too bad, missed opportunity.
All right, so anyway, there's that. That always gets us off on a good foot, right? A good hoof.
Certainly is that. Yeah, a good hoof.
Started off on the right hoof, and we're going to transition away from that now into the sharing.
Yeah, sharing. I was told there was a sharing, though I never read these, so I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah, can you give us our jingle?
The sharing.
Great.
Was that good?
Mm-hmm. This comes in from Nick No Name. Nick No Last Name.
Back.
He says, hello, Yerky Boys, long-time listener, third time writing in. I want to initially, and he has there's 3 sections of this email. It's divided into subheadings. But initially he says, I want to initially provide my support for your out-of-country podcasts. I found them very entertaining. I didn't know what he was talking about at first. I forgot. Oh yeah, we went out of the country is what he means. He says, especially the interview with Applegate. I have a few items on my agenda for this email. So here we go.
Oh, are we going to have to let her know about this too?
We'll let her know next time she's on.
Okay.
But that's good because we need positive feedback. Up until now, I thought nobody liked those. Okay. First up, he wants to mention our Patreon again. This is not me. This is the sharing. I am bound to read these emails. So this is not a plug. Nick says, happy to hear you folks have started a Patreon. I have not checked out the page yet, but if you guys are promising Let's Plays of Animorphs games or reviews of the Animorphs TV series, in addition to any other Animorphs adjacent content, I'll be there eventually. We can take these one at a time. That's the first.
Okay. So
Yeah.
our initial thoughts, we do intend to cover the Animorphs TV series and video games, although currently they're slated to happen as part of the regular podcast and not be Patreon exclusive. Although I don't know what we planned our format for the video games to be, if they would be Let's Plays or just a general review. I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
Yeah, I think the TV series is going to stay as part of the main podcast. I think everyone will get to hear that. But I think the video game episodes, were going to be more of our impressions and reactions. But I like the idea of doing we could, in addition to that, if people want like a deeper dive, they could do a longer full playthrough of the game where we record ourselves actually playing it, and then the main feed we could talk about our review of it or something like that. But that's a long time out, but
I mean, on the schedule, we won't be covering those for like a year or something, so we'll have time to figure out the plan, but something like that sounds good.
Yeah, but patreon.com/theyerkyboys, whatever your suggestions are, we'll take them into account. All right. Next, Nick has some thoughts about last week's book 28, which was The Experiment.
Yes.
Nick says, book 28 sucks. Maybe I was in a bad mood reading book 28, but I did not like it, and currently I would rank it dead last at this point in the series. He says there are 3 things I think are wrong with this book. 1, Eric is not a compelling character in this book because he's not a character. He's a plot device to jumpstart the book. Eric has taken on the role as a combo Alpha 5/Zordon from the first Power Rangers series. 2, the ghostwriter for this book doesn't seem to understand the character of Axe. Axe in more recent books has character. Here he seems like a fucking robot meeting humanity for the first time. There are some okay Axe moments, but in between that are some very weird moments. For example, when the writer decided to have a tangent about not understanding online communication, the bit was Marco missing time on an X-Files chat, because it assumes that Andalites never created a system to send and receive written messages near instantaneously. 3, the plot was meaningless. You know how everyone says Raiders of the Lost Ark would have ended the same whether Indy was there or not? Same thing here. If the Animorphs never found out about this experiment, since it was a failure and never worked, nothing would have changed regarding the Yeerk's conquest of Earth. At least Raiders of the Lost Ark is a fun movie. Also tangentially related, but there was just bad prose. An especially bad selection comes in during the mission where they all morph birds to fly to the roof of the chimp truck. This phrasing made its way past editors. Quote, the roof was smooth. I slid into Rachel as the indicator light changed. End quote. Axe did what to Rachel? In a book marketed to preteens? Okay. So last week I was a little higher on book 28 than you were. So I wonder, does this speak to you, these complaints? Is there anything there that you disagree with or that you agree with but didn't maybe come to your head last week? Specifically, I guess it's Eric's character, Axe's character, and the plot being meaningless, and the bad prose.
I don't know if I'm as sensitive to the bad prose. It might maybe just because I'm kind of expecting it to some degree from Animorphs. Although, again, it's not as bad as I always think it is when I've returned this time. For Eric's character in the plot, I don't know that there's that much new, because I feel like we did go over this a little bit last time. I do think that Eric is not particularly well used in that book. I 100% agree. You can integrate Eric into the plot in ways that are interesting, and you can use him in ways that are interesting where you just say, oh, I think as the example I used, what if the Animorphs have to leave town for a week? You can't write that story. Oh, but if you have the chi, then you can write that story. That's interesting. If he just shows up to tell them the plot, then like, what is he doing? I don't know. I agree with that. And in terms of the plot, as I said before, it doesn't go anywhere. It's dumb. And I think you had said that you didn't like it because it it didn't go
It felt like you could rearrange it and it wouldn't matter.
yeah, like it just wouldn't matter at all. And for me, I was kind of like, I feel like that is like a testament to the fact that they didn't really have an idea of what they were writing. You know what I mean? Like when you get down to this final idea of the anti-free will serum, like this same story could have been interesting if you just introduced this idea at the beginning and then like worked through it as part of an overarching plot, but they didn't, and they couldn't. Not because it's not because they did a bad job writing. It's because this isn't an idea. There's not actually an idea.
We don't need to go down that rabbit hole again. Please.
Okay.
So it was a 45-minute rant last week.
I can't help myself.
I know.
I mean, how do you feel about the axes as like a robot type thing? I see where he's coming from on this. On the other hand, there are like, I enjoy Axe being silly about the human stuff, and you know, as dumb as it is to be like, oh well, how the hell do Andalites not understand online communication? It is kind of in line with some of the other stupid shit, like books are more advanced than computers that they've brought up before, so it's not like out of place exactly, even if it's dumb.
Yeah, I did enjoy the Axe parts of the book, which technically is the whole book, but I do. There's maybe a word that I don't think we have said yet on this podcast, which maybe should start being said. And that word is Flanderization. And maybe Axe is in danger of that happening to him, where he is starting to kind of become a caricature or a parody of himself, of constantly just being like, oh, what? Humans wear pants? How weird. It's like, do we reach a point of diminishing returns on that ever? I don't know.
Yeah. It doesn't help that that's all that he's given in that book. Like there's
right.
As Nick said, there's not really much of a plot to hang on to. So you're pretty much just looking at those character traits being shown to you.
So I pretty much agree with his thesis here, even though I liked the Axe stuff. It was funny enough to me that I wasn't thinking about the actual, consequences of it and his character in a larger sense. Also, the prose, at this point, I have just become, I think, numb to it. I'm glad that Nick points it out, because I think it's good to keep it in mind. But I don't read these books for... like sometimes I'll switch back and okay, I don't spoilers for our Patreon, but I started reading the book. All right.
Yeah, that's supposed to be a secret.
Well,
secret drop.
Maybe I'll bleep it out. They won't know what it is yet. But it's a book with, let's just say, flowery prose, certainly compared to Animorphs. And it is really like tonal whiplash, where I almost don't even... Animorphs, I'm just reading it for the content. Like, it's like I'm just downloading data and the words are just the delivery system. Like,
I would agree
the prose
with that,
no longer registers to me. We don't get any more tail feathers don't grow back, That's really the pinnacle.
I think there's a tail feathers grow back moment in this book, actually.
Oh, they do grow back? I said they don't grow back?
Yeah, they do grow back. Tail feathers grow back, yeah.
Sorry, I fucked it up. Okay, well, we'll see. But I certainly don't think book 28 is the worst of the series. It's not even close. But that's me. It's probably in the bottom 10. It might be in the bottom 6.
Yeah, I don't know, because I'd have to think about it. It's certainly, if I have to go with like objective quality, there are worse books, but I feel like a lot of those books have some bit of information in them that I hang on to more dearly than I do to, the men who are young and restless don't wear shirts type thing,
Yeah. Well, this negativity leads into a larger point of negativity, and Nick's final message from this email. He says, "You guys already started unpacking the idea of what I am going to call the Animorphs flop era toward the end of the book 28 episode. While I don't remember much of the story past book 26, I think that this series could be re-edited or rewritten as maybe a 10-book epic or something. I think that's an exercise that might be worth exploring once you guys have completed the series. How would you break the story down to deliver a more streamlined story with fewer books? Patreon content, perhaps? Again, His words, not mine. The
Mm.
Monster of the Week style storytelling is extremely transparent and poorly written in recent books. There's a lot of spinning wheels in the series reminiscent of syndicated TV in the 90s and early 2000s. Like so many shows with filler episodes or clip shows to maintain episode order numbers, this is what seems to have happened with this series. If you look ahead in the next handful of morphs featured on the books, you even get nearly back-to-back birds. Sorry if that's a spoiler, but it is noteworthy. I quickly scanned through the book covers for the rest of the series, and there are some unexciting animals. A cockroach, 4 birds, a beaver. Some odd choices for books where the characters can morph into any DNA haver. But I am judging a book by its cover, so maybe the Beaver book is a banger, and I'll be eating my words by the time I read it. Looking forward to further explorations on how these books fail their premise of fighting a war. Or maybe that's the point, since Vietnam was also a failure. Your Kandrona comrade, Nick, no last name. Now, some of this stuff maybe we will just save for our season recap, but I do think it is worth... And we've sort of danced around this of saying, are we entering... we haven't called it the flop era, but... we have kind of thought, are these, at least I have, are we starting to see, it's the ghostwriters, are the books starting to get bad? At this point, as a young, naive boy reading these for the first time, most of them, I can sort of see where this is starting to feel like, oh, maybe this is like season 8 of The Simpsons. Where it's like I'm starting to see the cracks, but it's like I'm still gonna buy the season 8 DVD because there's still some episodes you got to have in there. But maybe we're getting close. I don't know if you have brief thoughts on this.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into it because a lot of it for me is going to come down to frequency, right? Like you're going to see books that maybe aren't quite as good or issues going all the way back to the beginning, but as we get further and further, I think you're going to hit more and more like, oh, the stretches between the truly good books are farther between, and the like positive qualities within the bad books are less. But I don't really want to talk about that kind of frequency yet because it sort of involves being like, okay, so we had these are good and these are bad versus these are good and these are bad, and look at how much more we have as we go. So, you know what I mean? Like, until we've actually seen it, I don't want to speak too much on that. But that being said, I will say at least a couple of those books that he mentioned are bangers.
All right, Beaver banger could be coming.
At least I think they are.
Don't count it out yet. I like that. Do you know what the Beaver book is? Like, that's in your head.
I basically do. It's pretty late, and as the books get later, it starts to get a little confused in my head sometimes which one is which, but I do know which one's the Beaver book.
Okay. Well, I can't wait
to
find out. We'll be a couple of Beaver boys on that episode.
That's right.
But Beaver book. Okay. Getting ahead of ourselves. Future Patreon content. Well, thanks, Nick, for that email. Hope we answered it to your liking, and hope you sign up for the Patreon soon, because if it's for anybody, it sounds like it's for you. If you would like to send an email and add another 20 minutes to our show, you can. Our email address is theyerkyboys@gmail.com. We'll read it on the air.
Sure will. So I guess we can talk about this book now. Or at least start talking about what we have to talk about before we can talk about this book.
Right.
Right. So first things first, right? This is,
I'm the realist.
Still a ghost written book. This book was written by Melinda Metz, who wrote this book and also 34, both Cassie books. So this Cassie book and the next Cassie book were both written by the same author.
Interesting.
Now, this woman, Melinda Metz... you might know her as the author of the young adult series Roswell High, which was the inspiration for the Roswell TV show.
Really? When you use inspiration, like that's an adaptation?
I don't know how close it was. I skimmed her like Wikipedia page, and I was like, I know Roswell and I know Roswell High. Not well, but I know both of them.
Wow. I had no idea that was I've never watched that show, although it sort of seems like it might have been up my alley at the time.
Mm-hmm.
She also ghost wrote for or just wrote, I guess, for Buffy the Vampire Slayer books as well as Goosebumps books. Like this was a woman of the 90s.
Yeah, she did a lot, and like apparently there were like Everwood books. I only know that as a TV series.
I don't even.
I also never watched it, but I've heard it.
Yeah. So, interesting.
Yeah. She seems like she was. This is like a 90s YA author, right?
Yeah.
Prolific.
Yeah. That's pretty
sense.
Cool. Okay. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Maybe definitely our most noteworthy ghostwriter yet, then, like in terms of success and notoriety outside of Animorphs.
Yeah. In terms of, I've heard of things that she wrote.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
100%. This is, I don't want to say too much about this book in a general sense before we started.
Sorry.
We could, but
yeah. I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt you. I wouldn't do it if it wasn't important. I just wanted to say I'm more of a fan of Melinda Yankees. Okay.
I don't know what that means.
Melinda.
Oh, no, I do know what that means. Okay, shut up.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
That's fair. Go ahead.
We often with these books, and the last couple we've been talking about like, sometimes it feels like these books could have gone to any characters, and I will just say before we begin on this book, this is a Cassie book. It is like one of like the Cassie books. It's up there with 19 as like that. This could only have been a Cassie book, I think. So we are back to that.
Nah, this could have been Marco.
I don't know about that.
I will say, well, I guess we're not getting into the. Are we getting into the book?
No, we've got a cover to go through first.
All right. Well, yeah, just because you said that, I was just going to say, I did think it was funny, though, that if anyone is a second focus of the book, I feel like plot-wise, it's Axe. So I thought it was funny that last time we got an Axe book with a heavy Cassie presence, and this is kind of the flip of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but that is true.
Yeah. See, there you go. Every once in a while, I say something true. Okay.
So the cover of this book is, as promised last episode, Cassie morphing into a Yeerk. The quote here, it says, Cassie is about to make a change for the better, which I don't think that's very nice, personally. It just seems kind of rude.
I didn't read it that way until you said that. That's funny, because you didn't say what she's doing yet. Right? You did say it?
That she's morphing into a Yeerk, or is there something else that you're...
No, that was it. You said that? I missed it.
You got to listen here.
I was looking at the cover.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, here's a question. Can we get off the change puns for even one book, please? Scholastic.
It is so bad. It is so lazy.
Yeah.
They're like, half of them are the same thing. Like, this isn't even a pun. It's just like, look, she's changing. It's not a pun if she's literally changing.
Yeah.
Like, I understand usually you say that metaphorically. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Okay, yeah, it's bad. I'm sorry, like the word change. I'm done with it. Get out of here. She is looking good here, though, in her standard morphing suit.
That jacket's pretty fly.
Is that denim? What is that? I can't. The fabric doesn't look like denim, but it looks like a kind of like a 90s denim jacket.
Yeah, I mean, it's got those like white stripes like on the collar that doesn't look very denim to me, but I don't really know. It looks good.
T-shirt, yellow, bright yellow.
Yeah.
I guess it's a V-neck T-shirt tucked into her jeans. Oh my god, the fashion choices.
Her legs on mine are kind of cut off by a sticker again. Do these jeans have holes and bird poop on them?
No, they look very clean. So, yeah, I'm afraid to tell you.
Don't know that that's accurate.
Yeah, the third morph phase is really the money shot here, where she looks like she's got a little pointy goatee.
Yeah, the middle forms are usually the best here. I gotta say, I identify a lot with this middle morph here.
Well, we are the Yerky boys after all.
That's true. I was just thinking sometimes you just turn into a slug and you can't move for a couple hours.
Yeah. Well, in this book, Cassie's really a Yerky girl.
That's true.
Yeah.
Now, how
maybe
does
the
this
only.
compare? I haven't looked at that logo you made in a long time. How does this compare to our logo?
It's a little different. I don't remember. I actually don't really know where the Yerk in our logo is from. It is like official art, but I assume it's from like a promotional image or something. That one is more cartoony. It's not. This one has more. It's kind of designed to look a little more photorealistic. But I think in general the design is pretty close. It's just more, brighter colors, not as this one's like less saturated, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Also the background is dark gray, very moody.
Yeah, like the sky in the Matrix.
It is like that. Yeah.
Now this sticker on mine.
Oh yeah.
Says join the sanctuary.
Whoa.
Which I guess was an Animorphs fan club. Go to scholastic.com/Animorphs before 4/30/99. Time is running out.
Wow.
I looked into this Animorphs Sanctuary, and the A in Sanctuary is the Animorphs font A, just so you know.
Cool.
The first A.
Like the faculty, kind of.
Yeah, a lot like that, actually. I looked into this a little bit, and it looks like there's a lot of stuff. There was a lot of information on Encyclopedia on this fan club that I didn't know about because I never joined the Sanctuary. There was like newsletters and all kinds of passwords, all kinds of good crap. Maybe we could do a deep dive on that at some point, but
we may have to. Yeah, interesting. I mean, I guess I understand why, but seems like they missed the layup of just calling it the sharing. I guess they didn't want to tell kids to join what's an evil cult in the books, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think there was like a whole campaign behind it. Like the Yerks are coming, so you have to. This is like the last bastion of freedom, so the sharing wouldn't have worked for that.
Wait, no. Why was there a deadline that was going away?
I don't know exactly. Like that's what I was. There's like a whole like thing that was happening with this. Where, like I said, they like gave you passwords. You would like go online and like access pages. There was stuff going on with it. I don't know.
Well, maybe we'll figure that out later.
Maybe we will. Now on the inside, the quote is "Home Sweet Home," and it's got a whole big old mess of Yerks.
Gross.
And another Yerk in a cage.
Yeah, it looks like a bunch of Yerks swimming around, and one of them's in kind of a lobster cage or a crab cage. Yeah, I wasn't picturing this many. Also, this isn't really, I must say, how I picture a Yerk, even in spite of our logo, which I look at every week and looks kind of similar. I think of them being I guess I think more of like a regular slug, not quite so colorful. They're like very bright green with a lot of purple spots on them.
I think they usually do describe them as gray in the books, do they not?
That sounds right to me. Yeah. I feel like there's some other sci-fi worm, maybe in Men in Black or something, that I'm maybe drawing from unconsciously. I'm not sure. Also, is this the only morph cover where it doesn't show a complete morph technically? Because the Yerk is much smaller. So on the cover, the Yerk is like the size of Cassie. So we're technically missing the final stage when she shrinks down.
I think there's a number of covers where you could say that's true because people stay about, like when Jake turns into a tiger and he's like the same length. But in this book, when Cassie...
wait a minute. There's insects on some of these covers. Never mind.
Well, I was just going to say, in this book, minor spoilers, but when Cassie... Spoilers, morphs a Yerk in this book. The first thing that happens is she turns into a human-sized Yerk and then shrinks. She does all her and that's not, so you could say those other ones, those are artistic license being taken, but here this is what she does.
That's true. You're right. All right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Corrected. Or I don't. I don't know. I wasn't really corrected.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I said some other stuff to what you said. So I guess we could start talking about this book.
Let's do it.
All
get into
right.
it.
So, we start off this book. We are in the cafeteria with Rachel and Cassie, and Rachel overhears longtime fan favorite characters Brittany and Allison talking at another table.
Yeah.
Allison kind of wants to ask Jake to the upcoming dance because she thinks he's cute. So Rachel marches Cassie over and has to be like, "No way, Jake's with Cassie." And there's a whole big, middle school. I guess they're still in middle school drama moment, and she has to bring Cassie over to the table where Jake and Marco are and make Jake ask her out, basically because they were too awkward to do it. Um, we get a good scene where they all go to the dance. We get to see all the Animorphs, including Tobias and Axe, at the dance, having a good time. Tobias and Axe are being weird guys. We get to see Jake and Cassie dance together. We get to see Allison try to ask Axe out, or ask him to dance. It's a good scene. It's what I want.
It's what you want.
Yeah, this is, and I've said this before, I want more of these just kind of like normal at school moments in Animorphs. And we haven't had a lot of those recently.
No, even not yet, but we see Chapman. He doesn't do anything, but I think he's the first time he's been in a book for a long time.
Yeah. No, in the past, sometimes they're just like, and then Chapman is a guy who exists. He's not here.
Yeah, he's really been demoted from like kind of the original big bad of the series to just nothing. You don't care about him.
I wonder if this is coming from the fact that Melinda Metz is like, she's done all this YA stuff. She wrote, if she wrote Roswell, then she wrote Aliens in high school, right? So like, maybe that's the reason we get more of a focus on these kinds of scenes.
And it seems like, based on knowing that her other book is a Cassie book and having read this one, this seems like she has a fondness for this character and maybe understands her and latches on to what mostly the aspects we enjoyed from book 19, which now we must recall in between this book and that book was a Helmicron book.
Yes.
Which, by the way, feels like that was part of me is like a Cassie book already. Like this season is kind of weird. I feel like usually we have more stuff breaking it up. So it feels weird to go. We've gone through a full cycle without any Megamorphs or any Chronicles or anything in between, I think, right? That seems crazy.
Have done a full cycle. I mean, doesn't that normally happen with Cassie though? Because 14, no, I guess not. 14 to 19, we didn't have it. Yeah, no, I guess not. It just worked out that way. But we'll have a Megamorphs next time to break up everyone else. So
right, but I do think we need to start this book by talking about where Cassie is at this point, and I feel like this book. You could almost read book 19 and then just follow it up with this one. And
yes.
I feel like it's more like Cassie just either regresses or doesn't do anything in all those books in between, unfortunately. I like immediately she's at the start of this wrestling with her violent actions. This is very different from the way anyone else's POV would start, because she is right out the gate talking to you about how Yerks are her friends, basically.
Yeah. She's talking about how Yerks are just slugs and trying to imagine what it would be like to like live without color or taste or anything. She spends time saying nobody else none of the other Animorphs care about Yerks like this. I'm the only one who thinks about that. She even brings up the time that she killed Estrel in book 19.
Right.
So I do think that this is, I 100% agree with you. This book is a good like follow up to 19, and we'll talk about that more at the end. But I do think that this book sort of it flows directly from book 19.
It almost feels like a minor retcon because the way she talks about it makes it seem like, oh, it's been haunting me lately. And I'm like, there were 2 or 3 books in between where you ripped some more throats, I'm pretty sure. It wasn't just that one. But it has more impact if that was like the big turning point for her.
Yeah, well, Melinda Metz Red 19 was like, this book's great, and then skimmed those other books and was like, fuck these, I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, we know these are based on outlines, but I wonder if she had any input on that, because it does feel like there's maybe a kinship there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I assume most of like the Helmacron book was probably just an instance of scheduling, and Kay Applegate wanted to return to this thread at some point. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, there's only so much that an overall outline and some revisions can do. I think there is enough of this underlying feeling of who Cassie is to imply that there is something of the ghostwriter in there as well.
Yeah, I think so. As you were saying about the, you like the school vibes,
Mm-hmm.
and that's also, I think I've been saying this lately too. Feels like we're very much in the puberty era of these novels. These kids are always talking about dating and kissing.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if that is also a side effect of the ghostwriters, or is that something that maybe the publishers even were like, hey, romance is selling in kids' books, or is that just a natural progression of the kids getting older? And that's just makes sense. I think it does, but I don't know. I just was speculating if there was anything else behind it.
Yeah, to me, I think it would be a natural progression. It makes more sense for me to think that either the publisher was like, that's going to be popular, or you get a bunch of ghostwriters in and you say, I'm writing a book for young adults. I'm writing this book for 12-year-olds or whatever, and they're like, oh, interesting. Maybe I should write romance in it. Kids like that. What if the kids had crushes on each other?
It seems like a lot of the ghostwriters, their other works have been romance novels or something related to that, or teen romance or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, maybe that's just the natural side effect of it. Again, even Axe here, I feel like he has a moment, like we were saying, where doesn't he have another moment of, because like everyone thinks he's cute because he's a disturbingly attractive morph.
Yeah, everybody's into him. Yeah, no, Allison shows up to try to ask him to dance, and Marco tells Axe that she wants his body, and he gets kind of scared by that. He's like, what he says is, I would like to shuffle my artificial hooves to the music with you, but you cannot have my body. My bod. D. My bod. D.
I'm gonna make a dubstep remix from that.
Ooh, yeah. He also says that she's warm for his form, which is a pretty good turn of phrase there.
These are some. If when I was 13, I would have been reading that like, holy shit, this is scandalous.
Ooh.
Like
Maybe you were a little
wants
sheltered.
His body. That's like a little explicit. There's only one thing you want someone's body for. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, sure, maybe it was explicit if you read this when you were 9.
Warm
or something,
for your form. I'm blushing saying that. That's like on Happy Days when they used to say someone was hot to trot.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
There's an episode of Happy Days where there's like a woman who was divorced. I swear to God. The whole episode was like, hey, Richie, you gotta like get with this woman because she'll definitely have sex with you because she's divorced, which means she's like looking for sex. I don't know. Someone will have to fact check me and look this episode up. But I remember watching this as a kid and being like, what the fuck?
Hey, old hens would rather put out than be put out to the pastures.
That's something that no one's ever said.
That's a Bloodhound Gang song. You can ignore me.
Okay. All right. Sure. And I will. Now, Allison and Brittany, there's 2 possibilities here.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder which one you think. Either they are Juan and Terry's sisters, or it's their future wives.
I was thinking maybe they should hook up with Juan and Terry
Yeah,
Um,
they're kind of like the Peach and Daisy to their Mario and Luigi.
Ooh, when are we gonna get a Wario though? That's the real
Wawan.
One.
It's still Wand, but it's just WAN.
Like James.
Like
James Wan.
Oh, yes, correct. Why did I even, as I said it, I thought of James Wan, but somehow you confused me. Yeah, that's right.
Allison the Airhead, as Rachel calls her.
Yeah, and Brittany the bitch.
Well, that goes without saying.
Anyway.
Here's a question. How come Marco's not there with anyone?
That is a good question.
Why did nobody want to go to dance with Marco?
I guess he's between ladies right now, you know?
Yeah, I suppose.
It's a good question. The most important question to me is, why is Jake, when they're in the cafeteria before this, he's eating macaroni and beef?
Yeah, it's beefaroni, right?
Macaroni and beef. I don't know. I don't like the way it's phrased. It sounds bad.
I mean, I feel that, but like, what? They didn't serve beefaroni at your school?
No.
Oh, weird.
Well, I didn't until high school. I didn't have. I always brought my own lunch. We didn't have a cafeteria in my middle school. What is that? What is that? A bragging?
I don't know. Oh, come on, but you had to not do it when it was like pizza day, right? When they had really shitty pizza that made you want to die, but at least it was pizza, so you wanted it anyway.
I don't, if it was shitty, I didn't know, but yeah, they did, but that was only like once a week or something. They did something like that. Yeah, no, they didn't. I didn't grow up putting stuff in macaroni, really. I don't know.
Well, if it's beefaroni, it should be like filled, right? The noodles would have a beef in them.
Yeah, that's not a thing I encountered.
I used to love that Chef Boyardee.
Well, I was a Franco-American kid. SpaghettiOs.
I mean, I guess it's because you're like a brand purist, right? You're not going to have like Chef Boyardee SpaghettiOs.
Oh God, no. I had the raviolis. They're not that good. They don't hold up.
What, as an adult you had them and you were like,
yeah,
not as good as the pure SpaghettiOs that I, a 34-year-old man, love.
Okay, don't dox me here. You don't need to know. SpaghettiOs are good. I had some like 3 days ago for lunch. They're very good.
No arguments here. I have no room to talk on the kinds of shit that people eat.
Here's a line. We were talking about musical inspiration with Disturbed earlier. When Cassie's describing the dance floor, she does say to picture guys mostly with guys and girls mostly with girls. Welcome to New York. It's been waiting for you. You think Taylor Swift's a millennial? She's our age. Do you think maybe she read it?
Yeah, she probably did.
Yeah, I bet she was an Animorphs girly. Come on, kidding me? I bet she was all over that shit when they turned into a cat.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. Well, we should get her on the podcast.
God, I need to find a way to just learn if she's read Animorphs or not. I guess I could stalk her and break into her apartment.
Yeah, we get more Rachel and Tobias here. Tobias being a weird guy who doesn't make facial expressions and trying to make Rachel jealous.
Who's he, Lindsay Lohan?
What?
Or she doesn't change facial expressions. You don't know what I'm talking about? Forget it.
What are you talking? Okay, never mind.
That was a reference to ytmnd.com. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah.
This podcast is just for us. And mainly
nobody else needs to listen to this.
Yeah.
But yeah, you also, I like the bit that they are too awkward to dance together. Like Cassie is trying to give them signals that, hey, you guys should go dance. So they're just not. They're just hanging out like losers.
Well, yeah. I wouldn't have even gone to this dance, so.
Nor would I, but.
Oh, yeah. We established that in our latest Patreon episode.
Yeah. Patreon heads know what's up.
That's right. Yeah, I don't know. There's some other goods. I like the part where Axe, says body.
But they mention a teacher strike in here too. I don't know if there's a little
Oh yeah, something
union
going
action
around.
going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, probably inspired by the faculty.
Did get some faculty vibes from this next part, I gotta say.
Go ahead.
So, all right, so they're on the dance floor, whatever, and his head starts throbbing. A lump on his head starts throbbing, and a stalk eye comes out. He's involuntarily demorphing, and he's becoming delirious, so he's not like quite aware of the seriousness of the situation. So the Animorphs they wrap up his head, and they have to get him out. They're like trying to rush him out, and Axe is out of it. He sees Allison again, and he panics because she wants his BD. And he runs straight into Chapman and Mr. Tidwell, who is the strictest teacher in the school. Mr. Tidwell's like, oh, he's been drinking, and pulls him away. The Animorphs father like, oh, he's got a condition. We have his pills. They're trying to run interference. Axe is being really obvious about like demorphing and remorphing, but it seems like maybe they're gonna be able to hide it and get away with it. But at the last moment, Tidwell pulls Cassie aside, and he's like, so I know that guy's an Andalite, and I also know who all of you are. Right. And it's like, oh shit. But then he reveals that the Yerk Illim, is part of the Yerk peace movement. And he has a message for Cassie, which is that Aftran has been captured, and she'll soon be interrogated by Visser 3, so they have to rescue her from the Yerk pool before she reveals who they all are to him. So they rush Axe out of the school, and yeah. So like I said, yeah.
Yeah, like you said.
Faculty vibes, right? We have,
Right.
A suspicious Chapman and Mr. Tidwell, and they're like trying to... It's fun to get back to the, obviously the important part here is the Yerk peace movement, but it is fun to get back to the part where like the suspicious vice principal is the bad guy, right?
Yeah, for just a brief scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a throwback.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Tidwell, he was in a book before, right?
I don't think he was. Maybe I'm mistaken.
I could have sworn I remembered that name from like maybe even just 1 or 2 books ago. Well, here, where's his name on Seropedia? They should tell us his first appearance or something, right?
Yeah, they should. I think there was another
Oh,
teacher.
no, it says first appearance. I'm wrong.
Okay.
I'm wrong.
I think there was another teacher at one point who, when we got to him, I was like, oh, his name sounds familiar. I think that might be someone we'll see later, thinking it was Mr. Tidwell. But then I looked at it, and it wasn't, so I don't know. I don't remember anymore.
Oh, well, that would have been good if they had seeded him a little bit, but that's fine.
Yeah, he's here now. He's the strictest teacher. That's all you need to know.
What's Melissa doing, you think? Just suffering, living in her
Moping.
shitty house.
Cutting herself.
Jesus Christ. All right. I did. Well, okay, let's start with Mr. Tidwell, right? That's the big. That's the
yeah. Oh
meat
yeah.
here.
100%.
This is a pretty shocking revelation.
Yeah. So those who didn't listen to Book 19, go do that. But also, Aftran, as you might remember, is the Yerk that Cassie turned in Book 19. She and Cassie made peace, and Aftran swore not to infest anyone else. And now we find out there's a whole peace movement, right? It's not just one Yerk who decided not to infest anyone. There's a whole movement now.
I do like seeing, in the same way that this occurred with the Hork-Bajir, the Animorphs have sort of, it's not, they don't really explicitly make a big deal out of it. Sometimes they do, but I feel like it's, both things have happened very slowly, gradually, kind of in the background, and then maybe you get a little bit more here and there. That the Hork-Bajir started their own, like are starting to fight back and have free will against the Yerks, and now the Yerks themselves are doing it kind of because of Cassie, which is a nice subtle thing that I don't think is really highlighted. That even the Animorphs win some fights, they lose some fights, but their biggest victories really have been, I think, in just inspiring Yerks and Hork-Bajir to do their own thing.
Mhm.
That's kind of their biggest impact they've had overall on this war so far. I mean, I guess you could argue maybe they stopped the Yerks from opening a portal or some shit. I don't remember all the missions, but in terms of like the long-term effort, these feel like they're really planting seeds that are coming into growth now, which I think is cool.
Yeah, I think this is one of the big strengths of the series and of what Kay Applegate's vision for the series is. It's not always executed perfectly, but it does. It's very aware of its larger themes and the fact that they are larger, right? Like it's very rare that something good happens because some individual hero comes in and saves the day and now everything's great. It's a lot more, like you said, these background things. Like, we win a couple of small battles, those don't turn the tide, but they kick off these larger movements with more people, right? We're not going to see Cassie personally, killing everybody or freeing everybody or whatever, but we are going to see Cassie inspiring Aftran to inspire other Yerks, and now we have a peace movement, and maybe they can't do that much, but they do exist, and you can grow from there. Or we freed 2 Hork-Bajir. What good is that? Well, now we've got a movement. It's growing. They're freeing other Hork-Bajir. They're that sort of thing. I think that is a common trend throughout the series that Kay Applegate does at least seem to understand the idea that these larger themes are more important to the flow of the story than any of the individual actions in the books are.
Yeah, the Howlers sort of mirror that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, although Cassie is pretty much ready in this scene to just murder Mr. Tidwell if she has to.
Yeah. I mean, listen. This goes back to the thing with Cassie, and there are a couple other instances in the book where we'll see things like this. Cassie is always balancing between like wanting to do the right thing and knowing that she has to do certain things. Like she is sitting there thinking that she might just have to murder Mr. Tidwell, but she's not. She's contemplating it as this like looming threat of a thing that she might have to do and not have a way out of.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as she sees the way out of it, and because the other Animorphs, we haven't gotten that much into it yet, but like immediately they're just like, oh well, obviously that's a lie, that's a trap. You should have just killed him.
Right. Yeah. Haven't they learned anything? Oh, they have, from all the traps and murder attempts.
Yeah, you should always listen to Cassie.
Yerk peace movement. This is like some Valkyrie type shit, right? This is how do you, Valkyrie?
Yeah,
Tom Cruise. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that too.
What? It's a movie.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
I really want a window into how they pull this peace movement off under Visser 3's nose. I mean, I guess there's so many Yerks and hosts, but it does honestly remind me of like a sympathetic Nazi kind of story that you'll sometimes see in movies of like a Nazi who's hiding Jews in their house or something, of like, how do you, sorry for taking it to Jews right now, but like, how do you approach, how do you invite someone else to your movement? Because the risk is so high that they're your enemy. And you have to be so careful of who you're allowed to talk to in that kind of scenario. It's just an interesting idea.
And I would love to see more exploration of this peace movement because and it's so dangerous too, because imagine like every time you switch hosts, right? If they say, oh, you get a promotion, cool, I get to go into like a Hork-Bajir now. Oh, but then the low-level Yerk who takes my host, he has my host memories, and my host was like, oh yeah, we were working together, and now everyone knows you're a traitor. So like you're even more on this like tightrope here, where you can't even afford to swap out your host here.
Yeah, I guess they do have a lot of unsupervised time in the field. So It might not be that hard at that point. I guess they're also, by the way, I guess, I don't know if, is Nazi hiding Jews actually a trope? I guess it's usually just regular people hiding Jews, not Nazis. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Listen, when you said Valkyrie, I thought you meant the actual Operation Valkyrie. So.
yeah, I mean, same thing.
Yeah, so I hear what you're saying. It is a very interesting movement, and one that I will just say right now, I feel like one of the misses in this series is that they don't interact with the Yerk Peace movement enough. Like they're here, but like they're so interesting and cool, and there's so many potential like ways in which everything could go wrong if because there's so many like information control things, right? Like Tidwell knows that Cassie and the other Animorphs are who they are, but like you can't tell that information to everyone in the Yerk Peace movement, right? Because then their hosts know it, and then if even one person's captured, everything's done. So like maybe Ilum is the only one who knows. Maybe Aftran just told Ilum. There's so many cool things going on there.
Yeah, it's this isn't new. It's I feel like this is a common strength and weakness of this series is that there's these fascinating ideas that just don't get explored, but they're a lot of fun to think about, but it would be nice if more of them were actually written about too.
Yeah, 100%.
What can you do?
This relates back to what Nick No Name was saying in the email. It was like, what if you take all of the good parts of Animorphs out and cut out all of the like villain of the week storylines? And there's a part of me that goes back to that and keeps wondering, like, are we asking for something that doesn't work here? Like, do these storylines, are they interesting because they show up in the middle of these villain of the week storylines? Like they exist the way they do because you can do whatever you want with your ideas, and as soon as you try to make it into one coherent, all totally linked storyline, maybe it falls apart. Like, are you turning this into like, oh, Boba Fett needs a backstory now type thing? I don't know. Maybe I'm not on anything with that. But
I was sort of with you, and I don't know how Boba Fett needing a backstory ties in here.
I was just thinking like Star Wars, like it's cool because they don't actually explain all the random shit they do, and then when they do it, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like same thing with Avatar. Like I don't just the idea that they're mining whale brain juice to live forever is like. Mm-hmm. I love that that's just a footnote in Way of Water, but that's 2 movies or 3 movies or 6 movies versus 40 books or whatever
54.
Well, yeah, at this point 30, but
I mean. On the other hand, though, obviously, like, I look at this and it's just immediately apparent how many cool stories there are to tell with the Yerk Peace movement, and it is kind of a shame how few get told throughout the series, I think. Now, Ilum here, interestingly, doesn't get a number. This is the first Yerk who has never gotten a number, and I'm wondering, is this his I can't tell you my last name? Right? To hide my identity. Otherwise, the Yerks will know when they read this book who betrayed them, which Ilum betrayed them.
Is. You're right. That is what it is. Because they never say anyone's I guess Aftran. Oh, they outed Aftran, so what the fuck?
Yeah, that's true. They did out Aftran.
Sort of blows that one out. So never mind. But
maybe that's how they caught her.
Yeah, I guess so. Did any of those new books come in yet? If only there weren't all these smudges where they talk about how they're what is it? I don't know. I just assume they're Andalites, I guess. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on the covers. They must have found a way to go directly from one morph to another.
Crazy stuff. Yeah, that is very that's weird. It is strange. Literally every other, even in this book, they say Aftran's number
942.
It's a weird oversight. It feels like it must be intentional, but I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the best explanation I got, is they didn't want to give his last name, but they don't say that, so I don't know.
Because they usually, like, I don't know, when Yerks casually talk to each other, maybe they drop it. Maybe he's the only Ilum, and there's 50 Aftrans. I don't know.
941 actions.
Okay. And then we get, Axe sickness is
Yeah.
what's really happening. And we're going to get into that more. But I will say, my immediate thought was that literally that someone spiked the punch and that Axe was just, and like he was having a weird reaction to alcohol, that like alcohol affects Andalites badly. That's what I thought happened.
So when
I
Tidwell
kind of
was
wish
like,
that is what happened.
He's obviously been drinking. You were like, yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Because they even say, I think they joke about the punch or something. And I was like, yeah, it seems like what's going on.
Later. Yeah.
I think he's drunk. But I guess not.
No. So they managed to get Axe back to the barn. He's like weak and delirious. They get him demorphed. And so it turns out Axe has Yamfoot. How did you pronounce that? Yamfoot?
I was saying Yamfoot.
Yamfoot?
But I mean, it's pretty close,
Yamfoot, which is a disease of his tria gland.
Tria. All right. I was saying Tria.
I don't know. Write into the yerkyboys@gmail.com. Tell us how you pronounce tria or tria.
Like triangle, right? All right.
I guess. I could say tria if you want me to.
Trial. But then also triage. Go ahead.
Got any more?
Nope. I think that's all of them.
Okay. So those are like basically the tria or tria gland is something that holds disease organisms to help keep him healthy. But if they build up in there, then it can eventually explode. It's very similar to your lymph nodes in bubonic plague. Actually, it's like Andalite bubonic plague, and the only way, basically, this is going to be fatal. He is going to die from it unless it is surgically removed. So they are going to have to take the tria gland out from his brain. So they have to do brain surgery on him eventually. Right now, he has a high temperature and it's falling with time. So they have to operate when he hits this temperature threshold, right? So they basically put this deadline on it. There is going to come a point where they're going to have to do brain surgery on Axe, and it's coming soon. So they pull aside to discuss what they're going to do. They also discuss Tidwell and Aftran. Everyone thinks it's a trap except for Cassie, but they have to do it anyway. So they're going to go in and get Aftran tonight because they want to do it as soon as possible. And in the meantime, they'll go get Eric to stay in the stall with Axe and put up a hologram so that it'll look empty. We get a lot of good scenes. Cassie starting to be in her element as a medic here.
Yeah, that's her class, I suppose. Healer,
yeah. But yeah, immediately she's barking out orders, right? She's like, "Oh, get blankets, get water. You go do this. Axe, you got to tell me about the Yamfoot." And not even just in terms of helping Axe. I think she does a lot in terms of making sure she's giving everyone something to do. I think there's a scene where Tobias is asking to do something and she's giving him lookout duty. It seems like part of this is keeping everyone occupied. There's a bit where she pulls everyone away from Axe to give him rest when she thinks they're all about to start freaking out. I don't know. Cassie's kind of got a handle on this whole taking care of a sick person situation.
Yeah, well, her mothering instincts are kicking in.
Yes.
Is that sexist?
Probably. She says do you want to say the phrase?
You mean the phrase that I wrote in my notes in all caps?
That's probably the one that her mom used to say to her, that she says to Axe.
Bless your baby bones.
Okay, you can't talk like that, white baby.
Come on. That was fine. There was nothing wrong. That wasn't a black voice. Although I do on the critically acclaimed animated series Big Mouth, there is a character voiced by Maya Rudolph who is known for talking about her bubble bath. And that's That's how I feel like this phrase needs to be said. Is with like really, really like you got to really emphasize those B's. Bless your baby bones,
Baby bones.
baby
Maybe
bones.
this is like an Elvis line.
Baby bones. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm feeling that.
And Elvis didn't take anything from black people, so that's totally fine to do. Baby bones. I thought that was the funniest phrase.
A Baby Bones song out of you in the style of Elvis for the next Patreon.
Oh no! Now that I've opened the floodgates on this, and there's a lot of expectations here. If you sign up for the Patreon, you can tell me what to write. Okay, Baby Bones. So I love that. I also was thinking when reading this section, yummy yum yam foot.
Now that's a joke just for the boys.
Just for the Yerky
the
boys.
Two Yerky boys. No one else in the entire world. Yummy yum yam foot. So
okay. No, okay, well, I don't know. Well, I want to talk about Yamfoot.
Okay, let's talk about Yamfoot.
I don't think it makes sense. As our recurring segment goes, this doesn't make sense, does it? Or I just don't understand it, and more about what I don't understand about it later on. But just to start, I mean, maybe not even the Yamfoot yet, just the gland, the T gland, I'll call it.
Yeah.
So, okay, correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding from what I read here, and I'm not very good at reading comprehension. The triagland is sort of like a prison in an Andalite's body that holds all of the bad no organisms. Am I right so far?
That's not entirely wrong.
Okay, but what can happen is that there's, metaphorically speaking, a prison break, and it will burst, and all those bad organisms trapped in there get out and make you sick or kill you. So what is it, like an appendix? What causes it to burst?
So
the Yamfoot does that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the exact specifics of what's going on here, but this is very similar to how bubonic plague kills you, right? You have places in your body that, where you are actively bringing disease organisms for your immune system to like develop antibodies to, and the bubonic plague, like the buboes that you get are when your lymph nodes are swelling up because
bless your baby bubones
because they're getting too much of the plague in there, and because if they rupture, then you get sepsis in your blood and you die. And that's basically what's happening here, is that there's something about, I don't know if Yamfoot is just any time that you get this sort of thing with the triagland, or if Yamfoot is a specific disease that means that the triagland can't properly process it, and therefore it overwhelms it and it swells up. But like I said, this is analogous to real diseases in humans.
Okay. If you tell me it makes sense, I'll believe it. There's more I don't understand, but I'll save it for later.
I was gonna say I don't think it makes sense. And here's the first thing that I'm gonna say that doesn't make sense. Should morphing cure this?
Well, yeah. So we have talked about this before.
Yeah.
And if people listen to our fan fiction episodes, there was a fan fiction where someone who had cancer got the power to morph, and the morphing didn't heal them. Now, this was a fanfic. This is not canon, obviously.
Right. But the cancer is a genetic thing. And this is some external organism that stays in you.
But you could develop cancer. Is it always genetic? I mean, I guess it is, but you can, but it's not like those cells aren't an innate part of you, are they? Like they would just reform in the same way? What do I know? I don't know.
I mean, it is genetic, but it's genetic in the sense that usually, I mean, I don't know, but usually I think it's genetic in the sense that like you fucked with the genome in some way and you turned off like the auto kill response. I don't know. It's something like this. Like
I don't know.
But it's you are right that like if you reformed it from the basics, you wouldn't have the damaged DNA anymore. I don't think, but
it is one DNA. Of the weird things about morphing. That's like, I don't know if you have a cold and you morph. Well, technically the germs causing it they don't morph with you, so they would just kind of be in space, like they would just be there in the air.
Yeah, they would just stay inside you,
Or would they stay in your body in Z space? They must. They must, because it's not like your fucking white blood cells. I don't know.
Yeah, your gut biome stays with you. I don't know. Like, you can just sort of hand wave a lot of that stuff.
Maybe it would have been nice if there was just a sentence where Axe is like, yeah, it doesn't work that way, but no one even brings it up.
Yeah. And I think I didn't question that aspect at all as a kid, because as a kid I was like, well, of course it still works when you morph, because it's an Andalite disease, even though that really doesn't make sense, because morphing tech is not specific to Andalites. Anybody could have it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. A little bit confusing, but that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's the sickness. That's what it is.
Yeah, Axe is we'll talk about it later, but yeah, Axe does seem to have issues with like demorphing and remorphing as he's getting delirious, at least at the first bit here.
Yeah, and we get to Eric yet?
Yeah, let's talk about Eric. How do you feel about Eric in this book? Is he whatever Power Rangers character?
He is the first part of your sentence. He is whatever. I gotta say, I still look, as much as there can be a fun Eric book, and I appreciate the existence of the Chi from time to time, don't you feel like if you took a poll of 90% of every person who read Animorphs as a kid but didn't ever reread it as an adult, I feel like 90% of them would not remember that Eric exists. And this is a character who at this point has appeared in very important plots in several books. And I still feel like this is not a person that has stuck with anyone other than actual hardcore Animorphs fans.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Like, I think that might depend on how much of the series you read, because if if you read the first 20 books, yeah, you're probably right. But like at this point, we have now seen Eric for what, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, for 5 books in a row. We've seen Eric.
He leaves no impression on me.
Yeah, but it's always there. And in some of these books, some of the most important books, like 26, he's like an integral part.
But that's what's so amazing about it to me. Like, you're right. He's always there. So why don't I give a shit about him? I just feel like he has no characterization. Like, his plots are interesting, but who is Eric? Like, describe Eric. This is the Red Letter Media Phantom Menace thing. Like, what characteristics does Eric have besides like robot dog man and non-violent, which is just part of his programming? That's not even like he can't even help that. Yeah, and he's old. I'm tired of those jokes too, by the way. They also don't make sense. Why is the Forrest Gump thing, he had built the pyramids. I don't know. I'm kind of sick of Eric. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I like Eric in this book. I like him showing up. I like the way that he's used. I do see what you're saying. I do think that
POV.
Eric would
Give me the Chi Chronicles. Something.
I feel ya on that one. I do want that. I do think he would be stronger in this book if you cut him from, books 25 and 28 and then maybe like spaced out 26, 27, and 29 a little bit more. Like if he were used a little bit more sparingly, or like if the way, as you're saying, if you got like full on Eric POV books, like either all the way in or a little more out.
Yeah, I think he needs more fleshing out, but I guess I will say, to contradict myself, I know I complained in earlier books that they dropped the Chi and like seem to have forgotten about them completely. So I guess if I have to pick a side, I'm glad they at least acknowledge their existence, because I also still don't. It's just Eric. Like I don't know what the hell the rest of the Chi are doing all the time.
Yeah, the rest of the Chi we just don't know. Yeah, I will say I wish we got as much Toby as we do Eric.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, we haven't checked in with the Hork-Bajir colony since when? The Chronicles?
23.
Was that was right after the Chronicles?
Yeah, that was right after the Chronicles.
Yeah, so been a while. Well, I think there have been a couple references to them, but Anyway, I don't
Eric
know.
does kind of lampshade his own appearance in here where he says, "This is a change. I'm usually the one giving you guys some bad news." It's like, oh yeah, we flipped it around, Eric. You got a mission this time. Your mission's to sit there with X, but you know.
Yeah. Did you describe another scene yet, or no? We're still on. This is still Eric talking to them.
They're in the barn.
Well, he also Eric mentions like his dad, his fake dad. Yeah. They're like, "Do you know anyone who could help?" And he's like, "Oh, my dad was a doctor in 15th century France. He doesn't know anything."
Yeah, it is funny that none of the Chi are doctors. They just didn't.
But I don't explain this to me. He was a doctor in 15th century France. Okay. And then what? He just stopped for 500 years? Like he didn't learn modern medical practice?
Yeah, because he didn't play a doctor after that. Like right now, he just plays. They take new. They.
Doesn't he have a fake job as a fake dad? Doesn't he do something?
Yes, but not medicine. None of them are not.
Why?
Because it doesn't matter. Why would they need to learn to be surgeons?
Why do they need to do anything? I don't understand.
Just to fit in, just to live lives. No, all of them, right? They pick an identity, right? And then they just like grow their hologram. So Eric ages in real time, and eventually he's going to become an old man and quote die unquote, and he'll just get a little kid hologram, and he'll just start some totally new life as some totally new person. That's what they all have been doing since the dawn of history.
All right, here's another suggestion, possibility, a thing I'm wondering about. We established in the attack, I think I'm right, that Eric could download memories. Now, okay, there's not.
Well, he could download them from Isquirt technology.
Sure, I understand. Yeah. Right, there's no. That's not tech that we have on this earth.
Right.
But come on, we have the internet exists. Computers exist. The Chi have advanced technology. You're telling me he couldn't try or even suggest somebody that he can download a database of medical technology as a robot and maybe possibly be, well, look, spoilers for the end of this book, but a better candidate to do surgery than a 13-year-old?
I don't know. Like what? I mean, what's he downloading? Just information? Like he's not downloading programming from AI medical bots. This is the 90s.
But there's encyclopedias. There's medical journals and textbooks.
On humans, not on Andalites. Cassie knows as much about Axe as Eric does, and she's actually dealt with this kind of crap before. Also, I don't know.
She's never done surgery.
I have to wonder, do you think Eric's prohibition on violence prevents him from cutting into somebody, especially if he doesn't know if it's going to work or not?
Oh, God. Probably. But I still think, look, this is, we'll talk about this more at the end of the book, but I don't know.
I don't have any problem with this. I mean, what you want to, do you really? Okay.
You'll hear about my problem later. You'll hear about it.
All right. I'll hear about it, I guess.
Now let's get to the toilets.
All right, so as I said, they're going to hit the Yerk pool tonight to save Aftran. So the idea is that they could enter the sewers and come out in the Yerk pool plumbing if they entered through the water tower. Tobias knows where he can get some bait eels out back behind the store, so he goes and gets those, and Eric gets them, like, he downloads like a map of the water mains online and gives them directions, basically. So they go out to the water tower, they morph into these eels, they get into the water main, and they're rushed through the pipes. You know, it's a big action-y thing. They're trying to remember Eric's directions. Jake almost gets sucked the wrong way. There's like a whole thing.
I've been there before.
As they're going, he's kind of out of it. He's not really thinking clearly, and Cassie realizes that he has gotten sick with Yamfoot. And they're like, oh, if he gets demorphing spasms like Axe, then they're fucked. So they decide to turn back. And so instead of heading to the pool, they ride the current to just wherever an exit is, and they end up coming out their fire hose into a burning building, and they fly away. Marco and Cassie get Jake home. He's like throwing up all over the place. And they hear from Axe that they're all just going to get a normal flu. It's not going to be like requiring brain surgery, but probably they're all going to get it because it's highly contagious. All right, you can ask your other questions about Yamfoot now.
Well, listeners may remember this segment of the book from the first verse of the original Disturbed song.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
How is Yamfoot contagious to humans, and what does it do to humans because they don't have triaglands? I don't understand what this means.
It's I don't know. It can jump species. I mean, it's some kind of disease organism. Maybe it affects humans too, and it's pretty normal for like flu-like symptoms are the most generic symptoms that exist for disease organisms. It's not crazy to imagine that it could affect humans and andalites, and that we would have those kinds of symptoms.
I guess it's just they spend so much time specifically talking about the triagland.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
The triagland is what's going to kill Axe, because of the specific way it interacts with his biology. But like, it doesn't do that with ours, right? Like
Right.
like rats can get. Actually, I don't know. Maybe rats do die from the bubonic plague. I was going to say they get it. They're a vector for it, but I don't know that they like actually die in the same way we do. But maybe they do. I'm not sure.
Maybe I'm just dumb, and I am. But I don't. I think that I don't know. Maybe I would have thought it made more sense if this was some kind of a weird. For somehow this is a disease that only affects people with morphing DNA. I just feel like the whole andalite gland angle is a lot to learn about and comprehend in the midst of everything else that's going on in this book.
Weird.
I don't know.
None of that really registered to me as a problem, to be honest.
Weird is the nice way of you saying you're an idiot. I can hear it.
No, I don't know.
I thought. Well, you've also. Look, I may be an idiot. I'm putting that on the table as a possibility. I'm not going to say it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But as we sometimes say, you have been reading these books since you were a child.
That's
so
true
there
too.
are sometimes things that to you are just things you take for granted. Of course, it's Yamfoot. Mm-hmm. And I'm opening this book for the first time, and I didn't know there was a Yamfoot. And it's just a lot of new info to take in all at once.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair. I
like
do...
as soon as I find out it exists and that there's a gland and I barely understand that, now I also find out it's contagious and it affects them a different way. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's a lot to me.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't affect us that much differently. It's just that we don't die.
Yes.
Axe is still sitting around. I mean, he's not vomiting because he doesn't have a mouth, but he's still like weak and delirious and sweating and I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we don't really see the others that much because they're all in their own houses.
Yeah. All we really know is that they throw up a lot.
Right. Yes, that's true. The Technicolor yawn.
You ever notice how many different ways there are to say throwing up? There's vomiting, of course. Hurling, tossing your cookies, puking, a classic. Ralphing. There's cascading. But I prefer the terms that are more real. Like blowing chunks, spewing your guts, tangoing with the toilet, that's a good one. Technicolor yawn.
Yeah. Good Marco lines.
A good Marco line. I was inspired by Marco. I thought this Technicolor yawn phrase has stuck with me, and I definitely learned it from Marco. I think about it a lot.
It's one of the best ones. It's very good.
It's really good. I'm remembering one time when I was a kid, I I made like a color by numbers that was just a really like vivid drawing of a guy vomiting everywhere. But
Okay.
I like
wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Like you just colored it in, but that existed.
No. I made this. I made my own color by numbers. Like
Jesus
I drew the whole
Christ.
thing and numbered them all.
Do you have any
if you
fucking friends?
And I gave this to like, I don't remember, some adult like my parent or a teacher or whatever to color. And I did a great job hiding it because they were like, okay. And they didn't know what it was until it was done. And they were like, what is wrong with you? Because I divided everything up so it was not clear that he was vomiting until you did it.
And they kept you after that. They didn't. They didn't
Well-
leave you on a doorstep or anything?
Well, my parents did get divorced.
Okay. That was it the next day?
There was an incident.
Okay. But that's nice.
I'm sure I was
Technicolor Yawn,
inspired by Technicolor Yawn.
that makes it sound pretty, almost. I'm picturing just like a pure rainbow just like erupting from someone's mouth, you
That's
know?
what it looks like when I hurl.
Yeah. It's nice. Okay. Well, we're talking about disease. We're talking about hurling. There were a couple little moments I also like before they go on the mission. Cassie says, "You should." Oh no! Wait. Oh yeah, this is Axe, right? Or is this Eric? Did I confuse this?
I don't know what you're talking about. Before they go on the mission, something happens.
Oh, this was well. Okay. I mean, yeah. For some reason, I thought this was Axe. It wasn't totally clear to me, but it's Eric says this. Well, this just goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's Eric's job to babysit, right? Axe while they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And Cassie says, "Don't you want a book to read in there? It'll be boring." And Eric says, "I have several thousand books stored in my brain. Sometimes I pass the time by seeing how many I can read and comprehend at the same time." Okay. Probably some medical books in there, possibly. Just, I don't know. Seems like maybe that's something that could, he has that power established right there, canon. He could go to the library and be as smart as a first-year medical student, maybe. It's in there. It's in the book.
I mean, could he? Does a first year
think he
medical?
could.
I'm just gonna say there's a big to do made later.
Smarter
in this
than
book about
Cassie.
Where
Smarter
is
than
the
Cassie.
where is the tria gland? And
Right. Sure.
Eric's not gonna know that.
No, but
And
he
he-
will have an idea of how to how to like make an incision.
Cassie. Well, we'll talk about it.
Anyway,
You-
that's just tangential. The real thing about this segment is Cassie's response to that is, "Okay, forget I asked," which is the fucking most. Cassie's like supposed to be the nerd of the group, like the dork. And her response to someone saying, "I have the power to read infinite books," is like, what a fucking dork. It's like, I don't know. That just feel like Cassie should have that response. Like she's like Lisa Simpson, and I feel like she's bullying Eric for reading. Am I wrong?
I don't know.
I
did not take. I feel like you're picking up on all these little things that I'm just like, I didn't think that was a big deal, and you're like, I don't know.
Well, it is because it's a very minor detail, and it's just I don't know. I feel like sometimes in these books, sometimes these kids they just make them snarky because that's how you write comedy for kids at this period is like sarcasm and snarky. And I don't think Cassie would be snarky there. I don't know. She should be like, "That's amazing." Like, I wish I could do that.
Yeah, I guess that is fair. I mean, earlier in the book, we did see Rachel talking about how Marco was annoying, and Cassie was like trying to defend him not being annoying. So I don't know. Maybe you're right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that we necessarily get a picture of her as like a bookworm, but it's just so dismissive. I thought it was funny.
Sure.
I understand. It's just how you are anyway. You were like, she's right. Eric's a fucking nerd. And you're
Listen,
not wrong either.
Cassie was trying to help him out, and he was like, "Oh, I got all the books," and she's like, "Okay, if that's what you want." She's trying to help.
Well, you know what the problem is?
What's the problem?
There's no adverbs, and it's not. This isn't like a J.K. Rowling book where it would have said she would have said sarcastically or, there would have been a description so I'd know exactly what the tone was when Cassie said that.
You need a tone indicator.
Yeah, I am half joking because sometimes like these books can be very sparse in that regard, but I also. One of the things that annoys me so much about Harry Potter is there's an adverb after every fucking sentence, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah, I do remember you saying that.
But anyway,
talking about these eels, one thing that I do really like about this section here is I like how short this eel section is. Uh, like right, it's like we have to we have to try this mission. Makes sense. It's got to fail. Makes sense. They come up with some crazy plan. They try it. They fail it. It takes 2 chapters. Right. I think in a worse book, this would have taken at least a third of the book, if not more, and it would have just not been important and not mattered, and the rest of the book would have gotten squeezed so dense that you couldn't even tell what was going on.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I feel like we've had a string of books with mid-book climaxes that like some weird fight scene that feels like maybe it should be the end, but then they just keep going because they just don't really know how to structure things.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is like, oh, look, we tried it. This is kind of, they did this a lot in the earlier books, I think, where it was, we try something once, doesn't work. We have to come up with a plan B. And that's fine.
Yeah. And I do, it's fun. I think the Jake being sick reveal is handled in a fun way, right? Because they do almost like one of those flashback things to the bits you've seen of Jake before. Oh wait, those scenes meant he was sick, but you didn't realize it, and that is sort of in there. She has these little phrases about oh, Jake's eyes were sparkling, and it's oh no, they were glistening because he was, I don't know, you know what I mean, because he was sick.
Yeah.
There are little details in there that imply that he's sick that are designed for you to miss them until Cassie puts them all together and realizes what's going on, and I think that is well handled here.
Yeah, the stakes are high. They could be trapped in pipes as eels. They have no idea where they're going or how to get there.
Yeah, and one kind of fun thing about this book is just how it's just a never-ending increase in the stakes. There's going to be more coming, but it is kind of oh shit, Aftran is going to reveal all of them. Oh, also Axe needs brain surgery right now or he's going to die. Oh, also they're all getting sick one by one, so pretty soon they aren't at their full force, and the longer they wait, the fewer of them there are.
Yeah.
It is enjoyable how that just keeps pushing throughout the book.
Yeah, kind of reminded me a little bit of The Forgotten, my favorite Animorphs book. And I think I mentioned it there too. I don't think I have a name for it, but I swear there's a trope or something of, where the people start to disappear one by one. I guess any slasher movie or something like that. But when it's you start as a group and then it's little by little, it gets more and more intense because you realize oh my God, they got Joey and they got Fred. And now it's all down to Cynthia.
Yeah,
that's
the
fun.
End of the Lyran book.
End of the Lyran book, right?
Where they're on Lyra and they're all popping back.
Right. Yeah. It's effective, especially it also usually makes for better and probably easier on the author writing because you don't have to juggle 6 characters in every scene.
I mean, that's one way to make this a Cassie book is to just remove all the other characters.
That'll do it. That's how they did it in 19.
That is, yeah. So the next day after this failed mission, Cassie goes to school, and Rachel's not there. Rachel is now also sick. So they're down Jake and Rachel now. And while she is at school, Mr. Tidwell pulls Cassie aside during lunch and tells her, escalating the stakes once again, that actually Aftran is not going to be interrogated in several days. She's going to be interrogated at 8 p.m. tonight. So they have absolutely no time left. Cassie has the beginnings of a plan where she's going to morph a Yeerk to get into the Yeerk pool, although we don't really spell out what the plan is at this point here. We just sort of mention it. After school, she meets up with Marco, and Marco is now sick as well. So we're approaching our deadlines. We're quickly running out of time and running out of Animorphs here.
Running out of time and running out of Animorphs. Yeah. This is where the 5 little monkeys comes into play.
Yeah, this is where Marco.
Maybe that's the name of the trope.
Yeah, because Marco does the whole thing with we had the 5 little monkeys. That's us, the monkeys, falling off the bed.
Hey. Maybe that's this is their version, their PC version of the Agatha Christie and then there were none.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. We see a little bit of Ilum and Tidwell here, and what it might be like to discuss with them or talk with them at first. Like, so you see you see them like switching back and forth, or at least if you trust them at this point, which you might as well. Where sometimes Tidwell is controlling and sometimes Ilum is controlling, and it seems seamless who is in charge here. We find out a little bit about the backstory about how Ilum, felt really shitty listening to Mr. Tidwell despair all the time, and like once he heard that there was a peace movement, he decided he had to join it. We learn that Mr. Tidwell went through a whole depressed era after his wife died a couple years ago, and so now he wants to do something meaningful with his life, and so that's why he's working with it. I really like this character. I think it's very interesting, and it almost harkens back to like the Iskort symbiosis thing. Like they aren't designed to be symbiotic, and they don't have to be because Ilum could technically take full control. But like these two are operating as symbiotes.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I'd like to see the Pixar movie of Mr. Tidwell's wife divorcing him or dying or whatever it is, and then being depressed, but a little yurt comes into his brain and they learn to be best buds on a road trip.
That's good. We are later going to get a little journey through Mr. Tidwell's memories that could maybe be the beginning of Up.
Yeah, right. And we also, just last book with the whole wanting to suppress humans' free will thing, we said, oh, wouldn't it be better if the reason they were doing this is because all the Yeerks were listening to their complaining and maybe they were even sympathizing with them. And that's what we find out actually did happen. So maybe, I guess that's my headcanon now, is that ties into the last book.
Yeah, if that had been a better plot, then this becomes a really good plot.
Yeah, right. Or maybe this should have come first or something. I don't know. Or they could have hinted at it. Doesn't matter. They didn't.
Yeah.
But what a weird concept though, to just have a sentient being constantly in your brain, and they like each other. It's like having a roommate.
They're friends. Yeah.
But I mean, isn't there? I don't know. There's got to be some weird times where it's like Mr. Tidwell's just like, hey, Ilum, look into my brain about jacking off. We're gonna do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are some weird times in there. There is a little bit of an idea that maybe Ilum is almost a replacement for his wife in a way, right? Like he had this person who he was sharing his life with, and then she died, and he's super lonely and depressed, and now he's got this other person in his head.
So are you saying you ship Mr. Tidwell and Ilum?
I wasn't saying that. I mean, but like now I'm thinking, here we go. Like this is what you do, right? You get a relationship between a human and a Yeerk, and the Yeerk lives in the person's head. That's yeah.
This is Up meets Inside Out.
We need to find some of those like weirdo freaks who get off by putting slugs inside them and get them a Yeerk.
Yeah, 100%. Hate those fucking freaks. We do get an exact number here that Ilum says there are not an exact number, but nearly 100 members of the peace movement.
Yeah,
which is how many Yeerks do we think are on Earth? Like like few thousand or more?
Yeah, it should be thousands.
Like I don't know why in my head I'm thinking like 5,000 or something, but that could be, I don't know if I made that up.
I don't know if we ever got an exact number at any point. But yeah, I mean, it's a fairly small movement, but it's definitely not insignificant, right? It's like an actual movement and not just like a group of friends hanging out at the coffee shop.
Yeah. Well, that's fun too. If it's Central Perk, count me in.
Yeah. I do think maybe these guys are a little too peaceful because they do go out of their way to say like, oh, none of us really have any good battle morphs, so we can't rescue Aftran on our own. We're all just in like this fat old teacher.
That's right.
Nothing we can do.
The day in the life of a Yeerk.
Mm-hmm. They also, introduce sort of the Aftran conundrum here. Marco does
Mm.
when he asks, like, if we save Aftran, then what's going to happen, right? Because if Aftran is saved, then she's going to die of Kandrona starvation, right? Like, there's no that you can save the Animorphs, but how are you going to save Aftran?
I've got an idea.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
What's your idea?
It's time for a Kandrona heist. You find out where the Yeerks are keeping a mini Kandrona, and you steal it, and then you throw Aftran in a bathtub or something.
Well, I mean,
Bing bang boom.
We'll
I should be a fucking Animorph. I'm smarter than these kids.
I don't know. We'll talk about it when we get to the actual ending.
All right.
All right. So Cassie comes back to the barn after school. Axe is like getting very close to his crisis point, but there's like no steady pattern. It's impossible to predict when it's going to happen. So, Cassie's got to leave to go rescue Aftran very soon, and she's hoping that she'll be back in time, but she might not. There's like a quick run-in with her dad. She's like running around prepping for the surgery that she'll have to do when she gets back. She gets like a hole saw for Axe's skull. She's getting like surgical thread, bandages, alcohol. And she gets like a book from her mom about animal brain surgery. Tobias is now sick as well. He flies into the rafters all disoriented, and Cassie has to put him in a cage so her dad can take care of him. So it's just Cassie. She's on her own.
Despite all his rage.
Yeah, that's right. So Cassie, all prepped, is like, okay, I gotta go leave to rescue Aftran now. And she basically tells Eric that if she's not back in time, that he is not going to be able to go he can't go for help, right? He's got to just let Axe die. So things are getting pretty intense at this point, I think.
Pretty intense. They're not even camping, but it's intense.
Mm-hmm.
Cassie pretends she's a horse.
Cassie does pretend she's a horse. Well, she's not anymore.
Yeah, I think she does.
No, there's like a bit where her dad is like, "Oh, I know what you were doing in that empty stall. You were pretending you were a horse again." And Cassie's like, "That's right, Dad." She claims to not have done that since she was a little kid.
I don't buy it. Somebody calls somebody Joe Carpenter?
Yes. So I don't remember. Somebody does call somebody Joe Carpenter.
Yeah, like, what do you think? Who do you think you are, Joe Carpenter? That's not a... Now, I looked up Joe Carpenter. I thought maybe this is a reference.
Mm-hmm.
There is a Joe Carpenter on IMDb. He's a gaffer and a grip. He also did special effects for movies like some of Robert Rodriguez's films, like Alita Battle Angel and Hypnotic.
Oh, Hypnotic, my favorite.
But not The Faculty. So,
yeah.
An interesting reference, though.
Too bad. I was thinking maybe Joe Carpenter was a Snoopy character.
Does sound a little bit like that. Does sound like that. Is this the first time they say crap in one of these books?
No, they've said it before, but it's not very common. And
I mean, they've said hell and maybe even a damn, but I don't know. I don't remember that many craps.
I think they have said crap, but yes, not commonly. Tobias is a ornery little patient.
In
his cage.
Yeah. You don't cage Tobias. His whole fucking thing is being free.
Yeah, he's like puffing out his feathers. I like when he is gnawing on the bars like a bird.
Sounds a lot like what you would do.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%.
This is how you would react to someone trying to take care of you.
Yeah, no, I don't want that shit. Let me out. You can't get me out of here. Yeah, no, Cassie has to yell at him. She's like, I have no time for any of your crap, Tobias.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah,
and I guess Cassie's dad sticks something up his ass later.
Yeah, they do imply that might have happened.
All right, Cassie does not stick her hand in any goose's asses in this book, though.
Yeah, not in this one. There is a bit at the end of this where Cassie does she contemplates like, what if I had just killed Aftran when I had the chance? She doesn't think about that for very long. I think the specific, she has a line where she says something like, "I'd been alone when I faced that moment too. It had turned out to be the right choice." So I don't know. Cassie's she feels like she's not really questioning it too hard.
Yeah, I did like all of her internal,
hmm
debates, for lack of a better word right now. But maybe they could have expressed it a little bit more. But there's at least it's like, yeah, this is Cassie. She has moral dilemmas about
hmm
what is the right thing to do and who should I kill to save people, or should I not do that?
Yeah,
Nice
and
to see it.
that does tie with the thing where she like kind of says, "Let Axe die if I can't save him," right? Like, don't go to anyone for help and accidentally reveal.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah,
tough
I
call.
do think with regard to the Aftran thing, it is an interesting proposition to go back to it and say, like, we are in this position only because Cassie spared Aftran. If Cassie had not spared Aftran, then we wouldn't have to go save her. It wouldn't be a big deal. Um, so like that there is an interesting question there, but I also you do end up in this position where like of course Cassie is not going to question that too hard, right? Cassie is going to well obviously she made the right choice. And it would be the other Animorphs who like it would be Rachel and Marco specifically who would be like I don't and maybe Axe or like I don't know that you should have done that. And they do get a little of that earlier in the book where they're kind of being like about it. But they get sick too quickly to really explore that question.
Yeah, we should probably start moving faster on this book.
Yeah, no, I noticed we're pretty whatever. It's just it is what it is. Nothing to be done.
Well, we had a lot of well, there is something to be done. Go ahead.
All right. All right. Well, so Cassie goes to Mr. Tidwell's house. She gets there. She's got basically no time to spare. Ilum leaves Tidwell. Cassie acquires Ilum, and they put Ilum in a bag full of water and put it in Tidwell's jacket pocket. Cassie morphs into the Yerk, and it is extremely disgusting. There's like mucus and goo all over. She's a human-sized slug, as we said. Tidwell's like screaming in horror, and Tidwell puts Cassie in his head. And she figures out how to take control of him, and she drives to McDonald's and enters the Yerk pool via the Happy Meal with Extra Happy password.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is another thing that makes me want more exploration
McDonald's?
of, like,
Oh.
human Tidwell. Ooh, I do want McDonald's, though.
Yeah. He loves chilling with his Yerk, man.
He
That's
does,
what he
yeah.
loves.
Yeah, he's got a line where he says, like, being without him makes me feel empty. He's, like, rubbing his ear.
Yeah. That it is very interesting. Like that's the idea that maybe there's even something to be explored where maybe more humans, if not all, like could feel that way. Like maybe a Yerk would complete us in some way if they're not evil.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who would really like to have just a person in their head who is their friend all the time. I think that
Some
there's
people
something
pretend
real
they
there.
do. Yeah, I mean it's the movie Her. Right?
Yeah, that's kind of true. Yeah, we just need all the Yerks to be voiced by Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, I mean, if they sound hot, put them in my head, man. I feel like, I mean, you develop I can't even say what I'm going to say. It'll be so offensive to people.
Oh boy, I don't even know where you could be going with that.
I'm going to say it. They can't hear
All
it
right.
anyway, but
All right.
the deaf community. Look, this
Well,
is
it
not
wasn't offensive until you said they can't hear it anyway. Now it's offensive.
That's fine. Well, they can't hear it. There's no one's transcribing this shit. AI might. But it's not. This is not a one-to-one analogy. But I feel like there's a similar. There could be a weird movement where it's like, not that the deaf community is weird, but you could have a movement where it's like, some people would think they don't want a parasite in their head, but the people with the Yerk in their head might be like, no, maybe I've had this Yerk since I was a kid and I like it, and this is who we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like, if you, the only issue is the fact that the Yerk control is so like it's so easy to abuse it because they just can take full control. It's not necessarily one way. If you could just like tweak it slightly so that it was a little bit more two-way, that this becomes like a totally viable, cool thing that could be done.
Yeah, except I would not like it. I don't need another being around me 24/7. That's too much.
You just got to get a sexy one.
I guess, but I'd also just be embarrassed. I'd be like, oh, no, like they know constantly what I'm thinking about everything. I don't know. I couldn't.
Yeah, and they're into it.
Well, they wouldn't. They couldn't be. I mean, that's the reality of this. No, a Yeerk would not like this. No human is fun enough to want to live in their head for the rest of your life. I think it would just suck.
I mean, listen, there's some people who would just want the company, and some Yeerks might want the company too.
Maybe Yeerks are built different than humans, but I don't. Yeah. I like not knowing everyone's thoughts personally.
Yeah, that's fair. This could have something to do. When we see Cassie morph a Yeerk, there's not a huge explicit description of what Yeerk instincts are, but like she does have like an overwhelming sense of joy from Mr. Tidwell's senses, right? When she like opens her eyes and sees everything, even though she can see, right? She has been unable to see for all of like 2 minutes. So I have to wonder if that enjoyment is coming from the Yeerk brain instinctively, or like if her Yeerk in Yeerk form is going crazy for sight the way that Axe would go crazy for taste. And so, maybe it's possible that Yeerks would be into this because there's some instinctive element of them where they want to inhabit brains,
Yeah, perhaps. Is Cassie, do we ever find out? So does she just not get Yamfoot?
Not in this book, but either she's just naturally immune. Some people are. I'm sure that happens with some diseases where some people just like don't get it. Or she gets it after the book's over and whatever.
I was just thinking, like, could she infect Mr. Tidwell by being in his head? Or just being around him?
Quite possible. Maybe there's
like she could infect the whole Yeerk pool.
Whoa. Maybe Yamfoot is the new COVID in the Animorphs universe. There's a massive outbreak.
Yeah, could be. Also, I gotta say, this whole morph sequence is very Junji Ito. Uzumaki, where there's like a whole people turning into giant slugs. Made me think of that.
It is pretty gross.
It's very disturbing.
It's fun because it seems like Yeerks are literally just made of goo. Like there are a lot of descriptions of how the goo fills her organs and then her organs disappear. It seems like she doesn't have organs. She just has goo.
They're like cats, how they can conform to any shape. They just kind of fill in the crevices.
Yeah, they got to fit in those brain crevices, so they can't. Maybe they just don't have stable structures in their body.
They're magic. They're like silly putty or goos.
I think they do say silly putty in here, but I haven't thought about goos in a long time.
I was gonna say no one knows. Only I remember what goos is, but I'm glad you do.
I do know what it is. Yeah.
That was in the 90s. That was. I love it. They had so many of those. Just all they were selling to kids was colorful goo in a jar. Like, why? Kids just like goo. I don't know.
I was never allowed to have any of that because it was too gross and messy. My parents were like, you can't have that. It'll make a mess.
Yeah, I had a couple of them. I definitely had. What about silly putty, though? You could have that.
I'm sure I had silly putty at some point. I must have.
Yeah. Love silly putty. All right.
So Cassie is in Mr. Tidwell's head. We skipped the up scene, but we mentioned it. People will get it if they read it.
She also. It's there. Sorry, just some more. I forgot the Yeerk physiology stuff is interesting. They also says they put out a painkiller. I
don't think this is the first time they've said that, but yes, they do.
Got it or something? I don't know. Yeah, like they have a natural essence they give off that deadens the senses so that it doesn't hurt when they go into your ear. I don't know. That's the kind of cool stuff like you read in the DK encyclopedia that I like. The visual
Yeah.
dictionary.
I wonder if some of that was Kay Applegate just being like, it goes in your ear because that's like your brain, and then saying, wait a second, there's not actually like a hole from your ear to your brain. They're gonna have to like fuck you up a little bit. That probably hurts. It's not like they're entering your nose to get into your throat or whatever. Your brain is not exposed.
Yeah,
They better have a painkiller.
they do.
They do.
All right.
All right. So yeah. So she drives into the McDonald's. She gives the password, and she heads down into the Yerk pool. And once again, we get Yerk pool scenes with people, screaming and being infested. It's horrifying. It's been a while since we've seen it, but we have seen it before. She slips Ilum out of the bag into the pool and then exits Tidwell herself. So she is swimming around in the Yerk pool, and she finds the cage that has Aftran in it. She hears that Visser 3 is here, and he's about to begin the interrogation. So, thinking quickly, Cassie infests a girl at the pier, just a random human, and uses her to get to Aftran. This chick is apparently a collaborator. She's like a voluntary host, and Cassie is being like super careful not to allow anything about her identity to get through. So this chick won't know who she is or what's going on. As a human, she basically just like tackles Visser 3 and grabs Aftran and falls into the pool with her. She swims out of this girl's head
like she's running with a football down the field to make a goal.
Yeah, I mean, she just like runs, slams him, and just into the pool, right? But yeah, then there's like a big action sequence where she like goes Osprey, she grabs Aftran, they're shooting at her. Visser 3 morphs a giant swimming eyeball with tentacles for eyelashes, and the tips of the tentacles are filled with poison. She has to like poop on a hunter robot to blind it, and eventually she gets out of the Yerk pool. A lot of chapters pass there, but I figured I'd just throw the action scene in there because I don't know that there's usually that much to say about the action sequences.
Yeah, there's a little bit of stuff before.
Mm-hmm.
I thought one thing I thought was interesting was when Cassie gets in the Yerk pool, she says she has this feeling of being content and at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, that kind of contradicts that they like feel helpless and they crave to be in a host. It sounds like they love chilling in the pool, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like that is not as nuanced as it could be in the books because, to me, I almost imagine it as like being all cozy in your blankets in bed, where it's like, yeah, it feels great to get into your big cozy blankets, but if you spend like 2 days straight in bed, you're going to be fucking miserable.
Well,
you got to go outside sometimes.
I mean, define miserable, I guess. It's a level of misery I'm comfortable with.
I hear what you're saying. I do think they can both work together, but it could be explored better. If the Yerks in general are explored way better than most villains would be in series like this, but not as good as they could be.
Yeah, I'm not trying to like be like, oh, it's a plot hole. I'm just like, oh, that's interesting,
Mm-hmm.
I'll say some other shit that's like, oh, it's a plot hole, and people can get mad at me. But no, I won't really say that. I also did. I guess speaking to what we were saying earlier, the fact that she has some capability to block out her thoughts from the host. Maybe that's the answer to the roommate thing. Maybe if you're a skilled enough Yerk and host, you can almost meditate and separate yourself and go into different compartments of your own brain for a while to get some space.
Yeah, in other books, it seems like the Yerks are completely able to just totally shut themselves off, but hosts are unable to do that. Which again goes back to the idea that like one of the issues is that there's so many ways in which the infestation is a one-way street that like this could work for individuals, but unless you go out of your way to adapt humans or Yerks to make it less one way, it's not going to work as an overarching societal solution.
Yeah, and that's the only kind of solution I really look for. It's got to be overarching and societal.
Yeah, 100%.
Uh,
Been a while since we've been in the Yerk pool. Do you still
yeah.
get the sense of horror seeing all the like little kids screaming and everything?
I do. Yeah, no, I think it's still affecting. I don't think it's possible to have a scene down here that's
Mhm.
not horrifying. Like just the reminder that there are 5-year-olds with
Mhm.
yerks in them. It's fucking horrible.
Yeah. And I do think they do a good job of not overdoing it because yeah, I could easily see that becoming just totally nothing if it were every single book. In the same way that people getting eviscerated and holding their guts in with their hand just kind of becomes old hat after a while.
Ooh, eviscerated?
Yeah.
Eviscerated?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Viscer.
Viscer 3 turns into a giant eyeball with tentacles.
Mm-hmm. He does.
For, as usual, no reason.
Yeah, just because he can. I do kind of miss when his morphs had like names or locations where he got them and he would brag about
Yeah.
them.
What
They all
planet's moon is this from?
Yeah, they kind of blend together when I don't know it's called an Antarian bog.
I wonder if Ceropedia bothers making entries for those things, or not unless it has a name.
Uh, they they have in the like morphs used. It'll say like Viscer 3 eyeball monster or something, but then there won't be a link to it.
Yeah, well, they're not doing their due diligence, in my opinion.
Yep.
The whole scene is just pretty wild.
Hmm.
I, as you may or may not expect, I do have some issues with the Gleet biofilter. By the way, they also recall hunter robots, but do they actually appear? Oh yeah, they do. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
So that's fun because I think they only came out once before, so they're back.
there's one of them and Cassie poops on it. That almost feels like they just threw that in there because they were like, we forgot the hunter robots. She's got to deal with one.
Hey, I'm fine with that. At least they remembered.
Okay.
I'm glad they're there. Okay, just last book, big Gleet biofilter book. Big triumphant return for the biofilter. Clearly now it's here to stay. Kay Applegate remembered it. Now she's putting it in her outlines.
Yeah.
Last book, Cow goes through biofilter, flies and mites and things were basically instantaneously zapped. This book, there's an announcement and an alarm and a countdown, and if you're a bird, you can kind of just outrun it. Why did it become so inefficient compared to the last book?
In the first book they did still have the announcement and the warning. And part of the reason for it is that apparently it causes retinal damage to have your eyes open, so they don't want the controllers to get their retinas burned out. So they say, like, close your eyes for the Gleet biofilter. It says that in there. Now that and there is something to be said for Cassie only gets out because somebody opens the door for her. Which like hopefully you would not hear the announcement and then open the door down to the Yerk pool. But I don't know.
Yeah, it felt a little too easy. Like, well, if they could always just outrun it, then why don't they try to go in here more? I don't know.
Yeah, it felt to me. It kind of felt like they were like, "Listen, the problem is getting in. I don't want to have a whole plan for getting out. I want to be able to put them in there and just have them be able to escape if they need to, if everything goes wrong." I feel you on that. Although I did like afterwards when she's just a bird in a McDonald's and some random non-controller human opens the door for her.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah, and I mean, I do understand. Well, then the alarm would go off. You can't use it as the entry point still because they would know you're there, even if you can escape it. But
or like the door, the inner door doesn't open until it's gone off, but the outer door can. Like you can just leave.
Yeah, it seems like maybe they should just have a better. They shouldn't let that door open.
Yeah, the door should lock. You're right.
It seems like a fatal flaw in their design.
Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of rushed through a bunch of chapters with this, with being in the Yerk pool and doing that. This is actually a decent number of chapters. One thing I do think this book is actually very well paced for an Animorphs book.
Yeah.
I think that they do a decent job, like, stretching some of these scenes. Like, yeah, the action when she's in Osprey gets a little chaotic, like it often does in Animorphs, but it's not like so much just like all the different things in the Yerk pool happening at once. We spend a decent amount of time getting the atmosphere, doing the thing with this controller chick and all that before the chase scene. And again, part of that is because of smarter decisions with stuff like the eels. It's just like, make that 2 chapters. You have time to expand the crazy stuff at the end.
Yeah, I agree. And also maybe, again, the fewer characters to juggle. There's crazy things going on, but it's well paced.
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
So yeah, Cassie gets back. She gets back. She has now saved Aftran. Hooray! But she gets back to the barn, and Axe is in crisis. He needs surgery right now, or he is going to die. So Cassie and Eric prep him, but Cassie does not know where the triagland is in his brain. She has no idea, and Axe is unconscious. She doesn't know where to cut. So Cassie takes Aftran and puts Aftran into Axe's head. So Aftran gets in there and is able to figure out, just by feeling around all those little crevices, where the triagland must be, and tells Cassie where to find it. Apparently that information is not in Axe's brain. He was not paying attention in class again. But she feels it. So there's a long, tense scene where Cassie does brain surgery. We get to see her pulling back the skin and drilling, cutting the hole through the skull. There's blood, she's calling out what she needs, and Eric is handing it to her. It's very intense, very ER, as they would say in these books.
And do.
They do say it in this book. She finds the swollen triagland. She gets it out. She sews Axe up, and as Axe wakes up, he starts freaking out because there is a Yerk in his head and he's screaming.
Yeah.
So, I hear you saying you're going to have some issues here. I personally love this scene. I think it's very graphic, very intense. I get a sense of doing this surgery, right? It doesn't feel like, sometimes, even just going back to the old action sequence, where we have, I grabbed the Yerk in my talons as a bird and flew off, and it doesn't feel very grounded, and it feels very fantastical. But in this I really feel what it is like to be in Cassie's shoes, trying to get this thing out and dealing with the stress.
I kind of agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think the scene is well written. I think it's an intense scene. As we said, the stakes could not be higher.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's just me. Our listeners will let us know. But of all the things, and there are many very ridiculous things in the Animorphs book series, and maybe this is a strange hill to die on, but of all the things I've suspended my disbelief for, I just don't buy a 14-year-old doing brain surgery on an alien and it being successful. And the fact that they spend very little time exploring other alternatives to how to solve this problem. Cassie just almost, to me, too easily is just well, I'll just do the brain surgery then, I guess. And yes, it's treated as, well, this is going to be intense, but I don't know. I don't think that she could do this. And I think that you could have just said the gland was in his arm or in his stomach even, or something that could still be scary. But the brain is a sensitive area. And I don't buy that someone who, I don't even know if she's done surgery on an animal. I feel like they don't say she has. Who is a teenager with shitty little baby hands, can make an incision and go into someone's skull as a novice and not just cause permanent damage to them. I just find it very outlandish. And again, I know that's par for the course in this series, but maybe it's because this was felt so grounded that it hit me even more, that I was like, this is ridiculous to me.
That is very strange to me that you you don't believe in Cassie, I guess, here.
I don't believe in any. I barely believe in someone who just graduated medical school and became a surgeon. Like, it's literally, brain surgery is literally the go-to thing for something that's really hard. Like,
I'm not 100% sure that this is actually any more difficult than arm surgery. I don't know.
Here's the difference. You can fuck up an arm and it's okay.
That is the difference, is that if you fuck up the arm, but that doesn't mean that she can't do it. That just means that if she screws up, it's like she just can't screw up.
I don't know. I just kept thinking of like, oh, what are they going to do? I kept thinking like, oh, maybe they'll try to find like, the way on like crime shows, they'll have a vet who patches up the bullets for the mob or whatever. Like, in there, like for extra money, it's because they can't let them know their identities. Like they don't want to go to the real hospital, or maybe they'll like somehow, I don't know, she'll turn into a yerk and like go into the brain of a surgeon or something. Or like I said, Eric will try to do it. Just the fact that they were just they didn't ever try to come up with, like, everything else was the hard part.
Right in the beginning, Rachel suggests we should get a doctor, and Cassie says, and then what? Because the only option, and then what, is basically to kill them.
Yeah, I get it. There's hurdles, but I feel like those could be explored, and I feel like then you go, okay, well, how do we get around that problem? To me, us teenagers should do surgery just never seemed like a viable choice to me.
It's funny because I actually think that you would have less success
on an alien,
like fighting against. I think you would have less success trying to like fight a Hork-Bajir as a tiger than you would trying to do brain surgery. Personally,
but that's like there's certain things where that's the premise of the book, and you have to give them some level of leeway. It's suspension of disbelief in fiction. It's like, that's the tricky thing about it, is there's just certain things for certain people that you're willing to let go, and certain things you aren't.
I mean, I guess this is kind of the thing, is that I am willing to let go on this one, and part of the reason is, like, in this one, they do, in fact, step by step, say every single thing that Cassie does, right? Like, at no point do they say, and then I successfully did the brain surgery. And this is kind of the thing where I think the fighting is almost less believable, is that you can say, like, how did they get around this? How did they deal with these blades? How did they do? Because with this one, every complaint that you're making is, she couldn't have done it, right? Well, what in this book couldn't she have done? Well, they described step by step every single thing she did do. Which of those things couldn't she have done? As opposed to saying, like, well, there's a whole part of the process that they didn't describe. Well, in this, they describe all of it.
I guess I don't have faith in Cassie, like you said. I guess it's the specifics of, like, yes, like, physically she's capable of it. But could she really exactly, like, cut and drill the right place and extract the thing without accidentally fucking something up in there? I just don't.
All she has to do is make a single cut on to get the tria gland out, and it's got to be in the right place, but she's just got to do it once, right? She can't cut the tria gland or it'll explode. She can't cut into the brain too badly, but she's just got to get one cut. I think this is
just
doable.
Don't cut into the brain too badly. That's all.
Yeah, no, but this is the point, is that, like, yeah, if you only have to do it once, you can't. I don't know. I feel like you looked at this and immediately said they can't do it, and
yes!
So when they. And so when they did it, you're like, oh, well, that's obviously unbelievable. Whereas I look at this and I say, oh, she did it. I'm impressed by Cassie that she did it. And again, part of the reason, if they had said, and then I did the surgery, I might be like, how did she do it? But again, they tell you how she did it. They tell you what she did.
Well, like I said, I just kept waiting. I early on just assumed they would have to find an outside solution. And so when they never did, it seemed more and more ridiculous to me. So that was an expectation I put on the book, I suppose.
So, yeah, because, like, when I'm reading it, you look at it and you keep thinking, like, how are they going to get out? And at the end, as you realize that she's not going to get out of it.
It just seemed like no one was
thought
even acknowledging. Maybe I needed Marco in this scene is the problem. Is like, no one was going like, this is fucking crazy. It was just
Cassie was going, this is fucking crazy the whole time. She was like, I don't know if I can. Yeah, no, Cassie was stressing out about this the whole time. She was like, I don't know that I can do this. I don't know how to do this.
Maybe.
Like that,
maybe
she was
right.
doing it the whole time.
Here's what I will just say. If you gave me the option of you must accomplish one of these two tasks. The first one is fight a Hork-Bajir as a tiger, and the second one is do brain surgery on Axe. I would personally think I would have a much higher chance of success in the first scenario. I think I could jump at a thing and hit it with a paw better than doing brain surgery.
I mean,
that's how I feel.
You jump at a thing that is actively resisting by slicing at you with a bunch of blades. I don't know.
Yeah, as a tiger who is a large predator, I think that I could have a better chance at that. Would you trust me to do brain surgery on you?
But I mean, here's the
yes or no.
Here's the question. Here's the question. What if I'm about to die in literally an hour if you don't do it and you have no alternatives? Yeah, listen, I would. If I was going to die in an hour and nobody else could do it, yeah, I would trust you.
But this is
what else would I do?
I'm not criticizing Cassie for she at this point has to do it.
Yeah, I mean,
at what point she could?
At what point in the book did you want them to explore another alternative?
Much earlier. There was plenty of time.
They had a day, and they also had to rescue Aftran, and they also had to fail at rescuing Aftran with a different mission. Like, what? At what point?
Well. Listen, how about why would
another vet be able to do this better than Cassie? You know, because it's not like they know anything about Andalite physiology.
I don't know. You're focusing on that part. To me, it's still having any medical experience is a step up.
Cassie has plenty of medical experience.
She
sets bones. She does these things.
She puts pills in mouths. I don't know.
Listen, the most important, she already knew every step she had to do. And that's not that hard. You can get that out of a book. She had a book. The problem was, do you actually have the nerve to get in there and do it? And she does. And part of that is because she does have the medical experience to do things like set bones and do all these other like kind of squeamish things. I believe Cassie could do it.
Well, I'm glad you have faith in her. I will just think, I don't know. The final thing I'll say is if this were a film or a television show, the visual picture of an actual 14-year-old, like what they look like in real life doing this, to me is ridiculous. I think it's goofy. But that's what happens.
I'm sorry you feel that way, because in this book, to me, Cassie comes out looking like a badass.
Well, fuck you and fuck her too. To paraphrase Eminem.
Now,
listen, I don't even dislike the scene. I think it's a good scene. I just think it's fucking crazy.
Of all the things in Animorphs to think are fucking crazy.
Yeah, but it's not. I think that's.
I feel like you're just emotionally hung up on the phrase brain surgery. Like
it's literal brain surgery.
Yeah, exactly. That's if they had to do rocket science or whatever. It's not like that's necessarily any more complicated than any other kind of science, but that's the phrase. So you're like, well, they couldn't do that. Like, I feel like if it had been heart surgery, you would have fewer problems, even though it would be equally bad.
No, I would have the same problems with heart surgery. I told you, arm or stomach was my suggestion.
Heart surgery, stomach surgery is honestly probably, like, worse in some ways in terms of, like, how difficult it would be to do.
Yeah, well,
not necessarily in terms of the damage you're going to do if you fuck up, but
in the world of fiction, you can like stab somebody in the stomach and they're fine. So like that's acceptable.
Like it's not like it's a complicated thing. You go through the skin, you go through the skull, and then you look at the gland, which is really obviously different from the brain. It's not like in the stomach where you just got a whole mess of different things that all look the same and are intertwined and are covered with fascia. I could do brain surgery is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it sounds like that's what you're saying.
If I had to, I could do it.
Really easy that anyone could do this.
Yes, if I had to be a brain, I could do it. It wouldn't be a problem for me. I'm built different.
Yeah, I get
me and Cassie are built different.
I understand now. I'm just not like you.
How do you feel about the medical ethics of putting a Yerk in Axe's head?
Oh yeah, that. What was Aftran feel? Does she feel the host's pain too? Like
She does, yeah.
there's no anesthetic here. She's
Yeah.
awake.
Yeah, she feels it.
She seems fine. She doesn't seem to react. Maybe she can shut off the pain sensor. She probably can, actually.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how often Yerks can like deaden pain sensors and how often they're just like hurting when their host is hurting. I feel like they do hurt.
I do like that moment. I like that Axe is extremely offended by that. I think that is an interesting dynamic. It's pretty. They don't pay much attention to it because there's no time, but.
Yeah, but I do think that there is, it is a fun little medical ethics question because, like, it is a pretty severe violation of bodily autonomy to put a yerk in somebody's head without their consent, right?
Yeah. But if they're gonna die,
but that part of medical ethics is saying that you can't just save somebody's life without their consent.
Well, fuck doctors.
Yeah, I mean, Cassie does basically just turn around and say, "Shut the fuck up with your racism, Axe. This filthy yerk saved your life, so shut up.
Yeah,
I do not give you permission to refuse medical treatment just because you don't like that. Just because you're racist against your doctor."
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair.
Personally, I think you should be allowed to do that. If you want to die because you're racist against your doctor, that's your business, not mine.
Now, the real hero of this book is Aftran. What?
I mean, Aftran is a hero. But the way you say that implies to me that Cassie's not a hero of this book.
No, sure. She's a. They're all heroes, but the real hero is Aftran.
Aftran is a hero. Aftran's great. I love Aftran. I'm a big Aftran fan.
Good. Yeah, she's willing to die for the cause.
Yeah, she is. So Cassie, after they complete this whole thing, Cassie puts Aftran into her own head so they can have a conversation. Aftran asks Cassie to kill her. Cassie's like, "No, I can't." She offers that Aftran could stay in her, and Aftran's like, "No, because I'd have to go back to the Yerk Bull. It'd be too dangerous." And so it looks like they're going to have to kill Aftran, but in the final chapter, they reveal the solution, which is that they give all the Animorphs come together and they agree to give Aftran the power to morph using the blue box, so long as she agrees to become a Nothlit. And so Aftran traps herself in humpback whale morph. And so now she gets to go off and live with the whales. And we have the end of the book. We wave Aftran off on the beach.
Yeah. This is a nice ending.
Mm-hmm.
It does strike me as a bit odd that Aftran... I would think she would want to find some way to contribute to the fight still.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it seems like she's a freedom fighter, and that's kind of like in her DNA of like or whatever. But she's just kind of like, I'll just be a fucking whale, I guess. It's nice. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, listen, I will say, I wish that Cassie had convinced them to not have Aftran be a Nothlit, and that Aftran got a human morph like Axe and just started going to school. Like, because, you know, if you can eat in morph, couldn't she eat as a human and then demorph to Yerk and not have to get Kandrona raised? And we could have an Anya. I'm basically every time I see the possibility to have an Anya from Buffy, I want it. I want Aftran to go to school with them and be a regular part of the cast and join the team. And she's basically just Tobias, but she's a Yerk. This is what I want.
She could at least do that until, like I said, they find some way to get a Kandrona or something.
Yeah,
it feels like they wanted the like poetic ending without trying anything.
I do really like the poetic ending.
I do wonder though. I mean, how long did she spend researching like humpback whale? Okay, you like being in water, but I don't know. I'm just like, there's a lot of animals out there. How confident are you made the right call for the rest of your life?
She asked Cassie, and Cassie was like, whales are basically Jesus. They have souls. They're beautiful. They are Mother Earth incarnate.
They can speak psychically.
They can speak psychically. I wonder if Aftran is like Do you think she can learn whale and go off to join whale societies, or do you think they just like isolated her forever and she's just swimming in the ocean alone?
I think no. I think she'll join. Also, I'm writing a fan fiction where Aftran and David meet up.
Yeah, this is a good fan fiction.
We should write our own fanfics.
Or at least if she did a Frolus maneuver and became a Nothlit as a human. Just give me Anya. Aftran the Anya.
Yeah,
that's what I want.
Well, and again, even as a human, even without morphing, she could do some things. She could try to like sneak into the sharing meetings or something like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just got more of a sense of a fighting spirit from her versus immediately like, I guess she thinks her only alternative is death, but I don't know. I wasn't ready to give up that easy.
Yeah, I feel that, and part of that is just like not questioned because you go straight from her saying, "Listen, I don't see a way out for me, and the only way out is death, and I'm willing to accept that," which was reasonable at the time. To okay, what if we gave you morphing powers and we let you be a Nothlit, and now you're a humpback whale? And so, like, because you jump over that, the questions about aren't there other ways to use the morphing power, or maybe not as well explored?
Yeah.
That being said, I do really, I mean, I like the poetic ending because of the way that you sort of, like this sort of wraps up the metaphor that was getting teed up in book 19 that I was talking about at the end, where you have Cassie who agreed to be trapped forever as a caterpillar, and then while fully abiding by the rules, she still manages to escape, right? She still manages to become a human again. And in this one, you sort of have this thing. Aftran has vowed to never take a host, but then while abiding fully by the rules, she never takes another host. She gets to live the life of majesty and color and beauty and whatever by being a whale. You still could have done this with the human thing, but then it wouldn't put this nice bow on it. Again, there are a lot of things that might be nicer if this was just the ending to the series and you could just accept the poetic ending better, as opposed to looking and saying, I got 24 more books, why isn't Aftran a recurring character?
Yeah, I think maybe what would have made it land better is if we had known about the Yeerk peace movement in previous books, and Aftran was, maybe we heard like rumors about Aftran or something, and you could still end on the whale thing, but just give her a little more to do before that, and maybe make it, I don't know, or even after this, let her stick around for a couple books, and then you can whale her. But like I have mixed feelings about it. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I looking at it just in isolation, or in isolation between this book and 19, I think that they pair really nicely, and I like the ways that this extends and wraps up what's going on in 19. And I really like. So I'm just gonna lay it on mine. I love this book. I think this book is great. I really like this book a lot. I do think there are issues. Obviously, I brought up a couple of them here, but if you don't give me an entire rest of the series that I now don't get to have Aftran for, then those issues kind of go away a little bit.
I think maybe the biggest mark against this book is that the departure is so good.
Yes. And
it's kind of living in its shadow, and it kind of feels like a sequel and not like in a derogatory way. But I do, I love that I'm still glad they did do a sequel, because that was such an important book, especially for Cassie's character, and there needed to be a follow-up to that in terms of her character and just the plot. Like Aftran was still out there, so it makes sense. So I'm very glad they did this book, and in spite of my nitpicking. Which I also think I wouldn't have fought so hard for my nitpicking if you didn't so strongly disagree with it. But
makes for a good episode.
Yeah, well, people will remember that. That's going to be legendary. This is the one they're going to tell people to start with. So you know what you're getting into. I'm not quite as effusive as you. I thought it was certainly a good book probably a very good book. Probably the best, certainly the best one since The Attack. I guess that's been what, three books?
Yeah.
I don't know if
I
that's that
mean,
many.
also that's The Attack is a very high bar. I mean, for me, I do
Sure.
put this on the same level as The Attack in terms of how much I like it, but I also fully understand not doing that. That's a personal preference thing. Um,
Yeah,
but
I mean, well,
yeah, I
season
mean,
end, we'll figure that out.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, like saying, "Oh, this is the best book since my second favorite book in the entire series" is kind of like, all
Well,
right, well,
I'm
yeah,
just thinking more in terms of like what's been going on lately, like
gotcha.
this season. What's been because we have had some duds.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's and the fact I think this is maybe even one where I think this book. I don't know. I guess this is too dumb to say and not provable, but I'm like, maybe this one even benefits from having a ghostwriter. I get the sense that this is someone who is very in tune with Cassie or maybe like read The Departure and was excited to bring some of that back to the character.
mhm.
I don't know.
I mean, when I look at your complaints about the brain surgery scene, it does feel like you're saying the outline that says she has to do this is very bad, but the actual writing of the scene itself was very good. That
Maybe
does
that's what I'm
sound like
saying.
you're praising the ghostwriter.
I guess maybe that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I give her credit for taking this one and running with it. Like all my issues with this book that I complained about before are more they're like technical things that I don't like. They kind of annoy me, but I don't think they actually affect my enjoyment of the book overall. They're more just like, I wish that made a little more sense, or I wish they fleshed that out a little more. But even though I have fun bitching about them. This happens with, I feel like, a lot of these books. There's a lot of things that are fun to bitch about, but it's not like I dislike the book overall necessarily. It's not the one I do. Look, if it were me, I would have written in them trying to find more solutions to the thing. That's me. But that aside, yeah, it's a good one. Again, I think maybe a lot of it for me is just it's a tough act to follow thing. It's just I'm just thinking about that Aftran's other book, and and you barely get Aftran in this book, so maybe that's also sort of a bummer.
Yeah, I listen. The lack of Aftran in the series is one of its larger failings. I love Aftran, but yeah, I think there is going to be a difference if you come at this book like, okay, let's look at all the Cassie books, right? Oh man, this one's really good. But if you say, well, let's look at the best Cassie book, does it live up to that? Well, of course it doesn't. And that could be an issue going forward. Just every time you have anything you can compare to The Departure, you'll just be like, yeah, but you reminded me of a better book. And now I'm like, why couldn't you have just done that again? Because like thinking about the other Cassie books, it's like, well, it's clearly better than, or it's clearly not as good as 19. It's clearly better than 14 and 24. I mean, I don't know. Do you like it better than 4?
Yeah, I was gonna say actually, this probably is the second best Cassie book.
Yeah, and I love book 4. So
yeah, 4 is a good one for sure. Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, you just don't expect the rest of the series to live up to book 19.
I know, and I don't, but it's just this one is so strongly related to it. It was hard not to.
Understandable, yeah.
Also, now I'm just mad at you, and some of that is coming off in my feelings about the book. So it's your fault if I don't like it, actually.
That's good. I can't wait for our season review where we get into a shouting match over which letter grade, because we were 1 letter grade apart.
Yeah. We'll see. By the time we get to our season review, I won't even remember this book. There aren't that many pop culture references in this book, mercifully, so let's go through them. If you were on a desert island, who would you want to be with you? Baby Spice or Marco? This was like the second dig against Spice Girls, I feel like, from Rachel. She's really got a... Well, that, to me, that question is very hard because I can't decide which one I want to be stuck with.
Yeah, Spice Girl. It was trendy to be like, oh, those Spice Girls, they're popular. I don't like them because they're popular back in the 90s.
But I thought that was trendy amongst boys, not teenage girls.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know.
And Rachel loves fashion? There's like a whole Spice who just does fashion. Whatever.
Well, she'd be on the desert island with that one.
Rachel dresses Cassie up, quote, like her own personal Barbie doll. Tobias says something about his feathers, baby.
Yeah, chicks dig the feathers, baby, or something. I don't know. It's something like that.
Yeah, and he says, sorry, Axe had Austin Powers on his TV last night. So we're continuing the Axe watching TV thread.
Hey, Tobias is funny.
Now, I read this as like baby, not like Austin Powers is like baby. Like he doesn't stretch it out that much.
That's true. Yeah, no, he stretches the first syllable out, if anything.
It's a bit weird.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is as accurate because everyone was doing those impressions at this time.
Yeah, where's my alrighty then. I need Marco to say that.
Marco, he's got to say it. Then the other Desert Island question is Baby Spice or Oprah. Brittany and Allison walked out in a cloud of Love's Baby Soft perfume. I didn't look that up, but I assume that's a real brand.
Probably.
I feel like I'm on ER. I definitely got a Noah Weil kind of thing happening. We get to play a live version of Operation, except if we make a mistake, Axe's nose doesn't light up, his triagland explodes. Yeah, they do acknowledge how hard it will be. They pass a Dunkin' Donuts. They make their way past a Taco Bell. Cassie has an ER dream featuring Noah Weil again. Cassie grabs a Pop-Tart on her way to school. 5 Little Monkeys, does that count as a reference? It's like
I counted it.
Great. Mr. Tidwell puts Ilum in a Ziploc bag, specifically, filled with water. As Cassie is morphing, the mucus thickens into a goo, like half-set Jell-O. And then as she is spread like hammered down silly putty. Of course, McDonald's Happy Meal with Extra Happy. She sees bright yellow caterpillar earth movers. The voluntary hosts of the Yerk Pool are watching reruns of Full House. That's fun. That's like a David Lynch thing to imagine this horror, and then in the background is like a laugh track.
It actually kind of is. Yeah, I feel that. Truly
upsetting. She says that this kid should be learning the names of all the Crayola crayons in the big box. Yeah. She also makes reference to not being exactly ready for the Olympic team, but she is ready to do brain surgery. Cassie gets a powerful urge to find a TV and plant herself in front of it with a pint of Ben & Jerry's, which I got to tell you, sounds pretty good to me right now.
I'm going to go get some of that.
That's all I had.
That's all. There's a bit here. Is aspirin the formula, a substance, or is it the brand? I don't know.
I think I didn't actually look it up, but I think it's. I don't think it was capitalized. In the book.
Wasn't.
Yeah, I think that's a generic, like ibuprofen is not technically. Yeah. That's like the name of the thing. I think
it makes sense that like "in" at the end implies it's some kind. I don't know. I'm not a chemist. I'm a brain surgeon.
That's right. We're gonna need the listeners to weigh in on this. Let us know which side of this argument you land on. The truth is, it's like I said, I took an extreme position just because you took one, but I'm probably closer to the middle. Really, I'm like, I think it's ridiculous, but also I can sort of accept it.
Yeah, I mean, like, to be fair, I did push back harder because we got into that argument, and I do, to me, it's like, I'm fully able to suspend my disbelief, I think, but I don't look at it like, well, of course she could do it. I look at it like the fact that she did it makes her a crazy badass who's awesome.
She did do it.
Yeah, because right. It's like something that would be so difficult for her to do. But I can, anyway.
No, but I like in general the position of if you don't believe something could happen in a movie, you just say, but it did happen. Didn't you see it? But they did do it. So therefore, it's believable. I watched it happen.
Yeah, but whatever. They went through step by step. All right.
Well, listen, we're talking about Full House earlier. Now you're talking about Step by Step. When's Family Matters coming on is what I want to know. Okay.
We're going to do Full House and Fuller House on our Patreon. So
we are. We're not at the Patreon yet, but if you would like to email us and let us know your thoughts about that argument or any part of this book or another book. Maybe you disagree with Nick Noname about some of the fucking shit he said. Email us, theyerkyboys@gmail.com. And our much lauded Patreon has got nothing but stellar reviews so far, where you can find the full-length version of Down with Number 29, The Sickness, as well as our bonus weekly episodes. That's patreon.com/the Yerky Boys. Become a controller today. This week we are going to be talking about the movie. You like that? We're going to be talking about the movie No One Can Save You. So it should be fun. I guess you can follow me online too. There's so many things now. You shouldn't you take one of these?
Yeah, I could take over one of these for you at some point. I don't know. Whatever.
Good on website,
follow him online. Yeah. Follow me online too if you want the Dog Times Miggy at Blue Sky. Thanks everyone for listening. Tune in next week when we'll be talking about Megamorphs 3, Elfangor's Secret, in which the gang's all here on the Yerky Boys.